everybody? It is Colin Nitro for Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited coming at you again with another classic Nitro Steak Live this week, this month, this year, this episode. We're going to take a look at the 1994 WWF Survivor Series in opinion and review. And of course, I can't do this alone. As you have figured out with this format, if you are a repeating, I guess, visitor to the channel, you'll understand that we have a couple more talking heads here on the screen. I am one of them, of course. We'll join into the stream here, Mr. TL. Mr. TL, how you doing tonight?
Oh, God damn. After watching this piece of crap, I had to pick me up a couple of Steve Weisers.
And bringing in our third here, the man who suggested this pay-per-view. It was his turn to pick the show, and he picked this one in particular. It is, well,
Hello.
I'm
back.
Doing his impression of Wyerton Willie, it's Craig Frazier.
I am back like a bad case of the clap.
Oh. Ouch.
Wait a minute. Hold
Get
on.
that looked at. Check, please. Craig, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well.
Good.
I didn't watch a piece of crap just now, which I can only assume is WWE Raw, which is tonight.
Yes.
Is on Mondays.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
Raw's on Mondays.
Uh-huh.
But I'm looking forward to discussing some other crap that we were watching.
Classic crap.
The 1994 Survivor Series pay-per-view.
Yes, indeed. Exactly. So, as I explained to the viewers and the listeners right off the top of the show, it's kind of a rotating roundtable here of who gets to pick per month. Basically, we meet once a month to do this. Think of it as like a wrestling book club. Think of it as, a nerds convention for wrestling pay-per-views or something, whatever you want. But I kind of like the wrestling book club type vernacular. But Craig, it was your turn to pick, and you've selected the 1994 WWF Survivor Series. So my first question to you is, what stood out about this pay-per-view that made you want to pick it for us to take a look at?
As I was scrolling through the pay-per-views on Wikipedia, you had asked me to choose a pay-per-view. So
Yes.
I was going through, and The Undertaker was my favorite wrestler besides Stone Cold. I think it's a tie between The Undertaker and Stone Cold.
Okay.
And this had a poster which featured The Undertaker. Now, also, I had a DVD when
That's
I was
the
a
poster right
kid.
there, by the way.
Yes,
There
there
we
it
go.
is.
Yeah.
Great poster. A little bit of Tombstone, a little bit of Unforgiven vibes going on there. It was in
Yeah.
San Antonio, Texas, going on. But when I had a DVD as a kid, which was like an Undertaker specific DVD that was like, it was some of his like kind of his early cut matches.
Yeah.
They had the Undertaker Imposter match, which I think happened at the SummerSlam before this
Yes.
pay-per-view, before this
Yep.
series.
Yep.
And this the match with Yokozuna, which was the main event, was on there, and I remember laughing my ass off when I first saw it on that DVD. And I was scrolling through, and I said, "Oh, Survivor Series '94 was that pay-per-view." So I was like, "Well, that's the one that we're going to watch." I was gonna
Okay.
watch Series '94.
Well, fair enough. Exactly. And it's kind of cool because we're kind of slowly going forward in progression of time. We started this series off at the Royal Rumble in 91, and then we made a stop last month at the SummerSlam in 1992 at Wembley in London. And now we've go all the way past the weird transitional era of skip 93 entirely, because trust me, there's nothing really to watch there in 1993 at all. That would hurt big time. But and now going into 1994, and of course this is the last pay-per-view of 1994 for WWE. They had 5 of them on their pay-per-view schedule at that time. It will slowly in 1995 expand a little bit more, but this is the last of the classic Big 5 pay-per-view setup years for WWE, which would be, of course, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, and of course the Survivor Series in November. So they would do that, and it's a less is more model that they were following. Probably, well, I think they figured by maximizing it with 5 was as much as they could go at the time. But I feel 5 is a good number nowadays because less is indeed more. But I don't think we have to have a monthly big show every month.
They're just grubbing for money, having a
Yeah.
monthly show. You already have enough of my money, Vince. I bought the Slammin' Action ring that you posted on your crap. Now you want me to buy a monthly pay-per-view, you jackass.
The Slammin' Action ring. So what figures came with your Slammin' Action ring?
Of course, I had an Undertaker figure. I had a Kane. I had Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and Ultimate Warrior. Remember Ultimate Warrior?
Wild. All right, cool.
Yeah, there's an Ultimate Warrior one.
That's a good mix. Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I had the Jax Raw's War ring when I was a kid, so I had the.
I hated the fuck out of that ring because it was too big for the figures.
Yeah, it was massive. Like this fig was like, they talk off about WWF having the huge ring, the 20 by 20 ring. This fig was like, if you were to expunge it out to real life dimensions, this was like a 40 by 40 or 60 by 60 type ring. Like it's massive. It didn't fit on it barely fit on like any TV tray you had. Unless you had like a massive TV tray. It's just
and the figures were too small. I was like, who the hell designed this?
Yeah, and it's like Bret's head the top of his head's bouncing across the top rope. It's like, this is not safe. What's going on? So like I had Bret and Owen, I had the Bulldog, I had Stone Cold, I had Goldust, Ken Shamrock, Dan Severn.
Dan Severn.
Severn, yeah.
There you go. One of the actual only guys in WWE that could actually kill people.
That's right. Exactly.
Mean son of a bitch.
I could never figure it out.
2-pack because that was Shamrock and Severn in the same package.
That's right. Yep. Yeah. I remember my grandma got me that one, and she's like, "Here, these two look like they could fight," and I'm like, "Yes, they can fight."
Let me tell you something. I had those figures as well. The ring I had was still the blue Hasbro ring, from the early 90s.
Yeah.
So we just kept that ring because it never broke.
Yeah.
And had all those figures. To this day, those figures are still kicking around. And my nieces and nephews will pull those out. They'll find them in the basement and still play with them.
Awesome.
I'm like, what?
I still have mine too. So like mine are put away, and my niece and nephew aren't at the age yet where they're playing with action figures, but I would imagine that in a couple of years' time we'll be busting those out.
I also
5-star matches. So
as a kid, I had the special edition. Now they only made about 17 of these, and it was the WWF Brawl for All ring.
Okay. Yep.
Wow.
That had the Dan Severn and Bart Gunn boxing action figures.
Oh.
None of this is real. I'm sorry. I was trying to.
Hey, this is great.
I was just thinking. It came. Draws. Is it?
Yeah.
Pre-injury draws.
Pre-injury draws. Yep.
and it had the Godfather, and it had a very, very dismayed Dan Severn, who was like, I think, what was it from the Brawl for All? Didn't he knocked somebody out, but then he was like, this is the dumbest thing that's ever been done for pro wrestling. And he just
also, and UFC stepped in too. They didn't want him fighting in it to begin with, so they were like, no, we don't. It's not benefiting us having him in the tournament. So that's that. That's why Ken Shamrock never fought in it either. Was just because, that was basically it. The UFC stepped in on both of them.
Well, especially since like the UFC, had a lot because they invested in these guys as actual fighters. And if the Godfather accidentally tripped Shamrock and knocked him down because he was just that much bigger than him, would that have looked good?
A guy blows an ACL trying to, goof around in a ring with a pro wrestler that gimmick is, a biker or something like that. Like he's in the ring with chains and he blows an MCL out or something like that. Well, there goes 6 months of pay-per-view revenue for you guys, right? So it's like, it's no good.
Well, geez, the whole point of the Brawl for All was to get over Dr. Death Steve Williams. And he got knocked out by Bart Gunn, who ended up winning the tournament. And they punished him by putting him against Butterbean, who knocked his ass out on WrestleMania for real.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's that's a horrible, some people are like, oh, this is a big thing for you, Bart. It's like, no, you're going to get killed by Butterbean. He's a super heavyweight. He's going to kill you.
Yep.
It's just horrible. That would be like me playing a game of like kick the can, try to like kick you in the shins. And they're like, well, Craig, you beat Kellen, so as a reward next month, you have to do a kicking competition with Anderson Silva. And I'd be like, what? But no. They're like, yep, that's fair.
And now you see why I threw the match, because I knew what the end result was going to be. So
well,
there
then
we go.
Dr. Death wasn't supposed to go up against Butterbean in the end. He was supposed to go over as the big, legit, I can kick people's asses in this tournament type of thing.
Yeah.
And have a program with whoever the top guy was at that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you know what? You take Dave Fennell's nickname, Dr. Death, and you gotta deal with that disappointment because there's only one Dr. Death, and he played for Edmonton in the CFL. Dave Fennell.
Right.
You son of a bitch! The real Dr. Death played for Alabama, Oklahoma, and every other southern state.
Boomer Sooner. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about Steve Williams. Well, Dave Fennell, sir.
We're 12 minutes in and we haven't even touched the pay-per-view yet. All right, here we go.
There's a damn good reason. This pay-per-view was a 3-pack of ass.
Okay.
This is to no fault whatsoever of Craig. He chose this because he liked the match between The Undertaker and Yokozuna. He did not know what came on this pay-per-view. This was shit. From the oh my god, let's start it up. Let's start the shit show, shall we?
Okay, let's start it. Let's start it by saying that the Survivor Series in 1994, the WWF Survivor Series, took place at the Freeman Coliseum in San Antonio, Texas. The date was November 23rd, 1994. The Freeman Coliseum has been site of a few other WWE events and that stuff. Most recently, it was site of NXT TakeOver back in 2016, and that was the big one, I believe, that had Shinsuke Nakamura versus Sami Zayn.
Best one ever.
Yeah, one of the biggest matches. So there we go.
It doesn't touch 94 Survivor Series.
Yeah, by court order, they should never touch each other.
So yes, some classic new generation action coming your way via the WWF Survivor Series, and you guys watched the copy as well as I from the Survivor Series Anthology DVD set. It is a 5-disc set released in about the late 2000s. You can still pick these up on Amazon, and please do so. It is phenomenal. The only issue again is we have the censoring of the F in everything. So it was World Wrestling Federation or WW blank.
WW.
Yeah, exactly. So we're back to that.
Now the World, or yeah. So what does he say? He's like, he is the WW champion. And I was like, what? Oh, yeah. Right. The F. They have
swearing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they have a love-hate relationship with the F. They had the hate relationship at the time. For more information on that, go back to our Royal Rumble 1991 review, because I go through that story in total, how that goes. So, but anyways, the opening for the pay-per-view. Well, the pay-per-view opens with teams discussing strategy in their locker rooms. What did you guys think of this kind of like, it kind of gives like a behind-the-scenes kind of gimmick here where the cameras are going into the locker rooms beforehand and watching the teams kind of huddle up and discuss what they're going to do.
Ty, you go first.
In theory, it's a good idea. And in the future, they continue to do this by sneaking the camera into the locker room so they can see what's going on before the match. Mm-hmm. However, this one was completely phony. It looked hokey. It looked planned. It looked staged. It looked shit.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. You got to rally together. We got to get them.
Oh, what's 1994? Yes.
It really drove home the reason of why Lex Luger could not be Hulk Hogan.
Oh, good Lord.
We'll get into that later on too. But yes,
preach on that right now.
Yep. Yeah.
But also just trying to hear Razor Ramon, the bad guy, to like encourage his team. Like, he's the bad guy, but he's like, hey, yo, we're going to go out there and take out Diesel, right? You know, so I'm like, what are you doing? Like, no. Like, how do you not get to do this? Vince, what the hell, buddy?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, this wouldn't be the first time the behind the scenes concept would be explored in WWF canon or anything. Hell, they did it the first year of the XFL. So I mean, they just walked into the locker rooms for that and that stuff. So I mean, that was what they did. So it was definitely something that is in the Vince playbook, and no doubt we'll probably see it again sometime in the near future as well. But there we go. But we go from that into a very, what I thought was a cool opening with a Southwest flair to it. We have like an animated wolf kind of baying at the moon, or is it a coyote? I guess it would be a coyote if it's Southwest. So, and kind of goes down into like a cliff face, and there's a bonfire, and the Survivor Series 94 logos kind of superimposed on this canyon wall and that stuff. And it kind of fades into, the roaring Coliseum and that stuff. And
you
Vince,
thought that was cool?
For 1994, it's very PlayStation 1. So it's very
cool. You have to think at the time.
Yeah, for the time, it's great.
What?
Yeah. It's cutting edge for the time. Well, not cutting edge, but
no, it's not, because cutting edge would have been like Toy Story #1, which came out in like 93, or Jurassic Park, which came out in 93.
Yeah.
But to be fair, Ty, I don't think that WWF at the time had Pixar budget or Disney budget or Universal budget like Toy Story or Jurassic Park did.
I think barely had a budget.
Right, Mr. Craig. You are goddamn right. Now, there's a little saying that Dusty Rhodes always told his proteges. It was, you don't do shit you don't know how to do.
Right.
You don't do shit you don't know how to do. So if they don't know how to make 3D graphics look good, you don't do the shit.
But you also got to look at it, take a look at the time frame.
What was the point? It's a cartoon. You don't even know what that animal was. It was so low res. For all we know, that could have been a cow. That could have been a cow, a deer, a cat, a llama. I don't know what the fuck that mammal was, assuming it was one. You got the cactus in the background. I thought I was watching VeggieTales.
I want to see if we can get Tyler to explode.
You might
do
it
oh, you will. You will by making me watch this shit.
That might pop off tonight for sure. I have to say though that the merch for this event is pretty stunning too. This is the T-shirt from the event, and that's 90s. That's pure 90s right there.
Man, I'd wear that now.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
No shame.
Yep, absolutely. And there's like thousands, well, hundreds, if not thousands of people wearing that in the stands that night because that's the event shirt, right? So there we go.
I could see a dad walking into a Home Depot with that on and getting mad. Where's the nails? I need the 3/4 inch. Like I can just, that is just clutch, that shirt. It was a great shirt.
And they drive out to their, 93 Silverado right after, and they peel out of the parking lot listening to Hell Freezes Over by the Eagles or something like that.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Well, here in my neck of the woods, the only place you're going to see that T-shirt is torn up and used to dry off shit.
That would have been also an acceptable use of that T-shirt, because after it gets a little too worn, after you get too many Cheeto dust stains on it, you gotta put it out to the garage and polish up the old Buick.
Yeah,
the old Skylark.
Yeah, no doubt that doing oil changes on said old Skylark would grease up the shirt pretty good. So that's it.
And it wouldn't make it look any worse.
Oh, there we go. And then we talked about this earlier too. This was the poster / tape cover that Silvervision, Coliseum Video, you name it, used basically in the aftermath of this event. So
although it's a cool poster, I don't know if this is supposed to be a wrestling event or if this is supposed to be starring Kevin Costner.
Well, at the time, don't forget what the hot films were at the time. Like stuff like Unforgiven was hot, and a lot of Westerns were big back then.
I think was Dances with Wolves out?
I believe so. I think so.
That's not so much a Western. That's Pocahontas live action.
But it still has kind of the Old West. The storyline is set in the Old West, so it has the Old West setting, right? So
the storyline is Pocahontas,
which was set in the Old West.
Oh, for God's sakes.
I was always convinced that Disney's Pocahontas was historically accurate. And to this day, you can't convince me otherwise. I understand that's privilege.
Yeah. So
I don't
care.
We have
another. Okay, go for it, Greg.
When the British landed in Virginia, there was a musical number, and it was dig up Virginia, boys, dig up Virginia, boys. It's mine, boys, mine for the taking. And Mel Gibson wore a Spanish helmet for some reason.
And this is all confirmed by Jesse Ventura as well, too.
Oh, for God's sakes.
Well, how do you tell me what happened? You tell me what happened in Virginia. I was there. I was there in 1784. I used a time machine constructed in 1984 in Project Beast Note that I...
Project Beast Note.
The pig sent the body back into time.
Stromboli was the trigger man.
Oh, damn pig. Well,
do the first match.
Okay, well, going into the opening of the show, we have another weird commentary pairing for this one. This is like
very much
3 pay-per-views in a row that we've done this. It's Vince McMahon and Gorilla Monsoon are the pay-per-view pairing, and of course they're dressed in the the appropriately attired San Antonio Southwestern cowboy stuff. I guess
of
going
course,
forward.
Of course.
Okay, question first off.
Okay, go for it.
This happened after WrestleMania 9, right?
Well, after WrestleMania 9, yes.
Jim Ross is part of the team.
Yes.
Why didn't they actually use him on commentary in the cowboy hat?
I believe this was during the same period where Ross was sick for the first time, where he got the Bell's palsy for the first time in his life.
Well, that's sad.
Yeah. So
but also now
he was sitting at home eating barbecue. Going double counter. No, kill him. You killed him. You took him in half.
So I think Ross is on the injured reserve for this one. There's not very much in the way of, I want to say, backup talent at this point for people on the commentary side, because the Brain has jumped to WCW, so there's no Bobby Heenan. Mean Gene has jumped to WCW, so there's no Mean Gene. I think all they have potentially for commentators at this show, that stuff that could call stuff, is Stan Lane, he of the Midnight Express, who had come in earlier that year as specifically a commentator for like Coliseum Video and all the smaller shows and that stuff, and Jerry Lawler, but Jerry Lawler's in a match, so you're not going to use Jerry Lawler at all, right? So,
well, okay. What about Piper? What about Perfect? What about Macho Man? All 3 who were like doing Raws and stuff.
Yeah, about Macho Man. He could do commentary. Yes, he could do commentary, but he was not available time. See, he could not get to the stadium on time. No, sorry. He was still in California trying to defeat Hulk Hogan. Oh, yeah.
He couldn't get to WWF Stadium in time, because this is right when he jumps to WCW with Slim Jim.
They told me it was in Seattle.
So there's no Savage. Piper, who knows? I think honestly Piper just gets a payday and then disconnects his phone. This is like, at this point, or doesn't accept calls from Vince after, because they used him at King of the Ring in 1994, and then that was it for, until about 1995 WrestleMania, they bring him back in again. So there's that. And then who was the third name that you mentioned? You mentioned Piper. You mentioned
Perfect.
Mr. Perfect. So I don't know what the deal is with Perfect during this time, because again, he is at Mania in 1994. They reintroduce him, and then he just leaves the company like shortly thereafter. And then we don't see him until what, 95, 96?
Right.
Late 95, 96? Yeah.
Well, let's just throw the names out there. This is the first pay-per-view where you're starting to see this new era, new generation stuff.
The new generation.
All those names you just mentioned are gone. Hogan, Macho Man, Ultimate Warrior, Sid Justice Vicious.
Yes.
Sergeant Slaughter.
Yes.
Roddy Piper, as we'd mentioned.
Yep.
Jake
Savage.
the Snake Roberts.
Oh, you said
Ravishing
Savage.
Rick Rude.
Yeah.
The Big Boss Man.
Yeah.
The Mountie. Geez, who else? Andre the Giant. He's already passed.
He's passed. Yeah, he passed away in 93, so he's
93.
gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, everyone that you know and love from the 80s is completely either not on the show or gone to a different company or passed away. So this really is the new generation of like Diesel, Razor Ramon, Bret Hart, British Bulldog, Owen, Luger, Shawn Michaels, blah, 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 Undertaker, Yokozuna.
And you know what? The cards earlier in the year for these pay-per-view shows have been decent. Royal Rumble 1994 was fairly good, in my opinion, because it had, you know, the finish was certainly original, whether you like it or not, with both Bret and Luger touching the ground at the same time at the end of the Rumble match and having two winners of the Rumble instead of one, I guess, or co-winners. WrestleMania 10, I still think is up there as one of the better WrestleManias in total, if you give it a rewatch.
We might have to.
Yeah. Fast forward, King of the Ring 1994 is Owen Hart's coming out party. If you could withstand the Art Donovan weird commentary for that one.
Nope.
It's a little strange, but it's all about the Rocket becoming the King of Hearts, that pay-per-view. And in SummerSlam 1994 is, you know, like Craig said, you got Undertaker versus Undertaker on that one. You have Leslie Nielsen doing the backstage stuff, you know, trying to find the Undertaker, which is, you know, a funny little side bit that's happening throughout the show. But you also have, you know, Bret and Owen in a cage, which is one of the greatest one of the most underappreciated, but as well one of the greatest cage matches, in my opinion, that I've ever seen in my life. So it's a solid year for pay-per-views coming into this one. And then we come into this one, and the team nature of the Survivor Series, we'll get to it somewhere during towards the end of the show, but I think
now, because we are 30 minutes in and we are dancing around the fact that this pay-per-view sucks. Let's get to the first match.
Okay, we'll get to the first match here, and I think a teaser for later. I think I have deduced a formula why the Survivor Series sucks. So
you needed a formula for that?
Yes, because this happens over multiple years.
You didn't just have two eyes and a couple of ears to know.
I had to think about it for a while. I had a lot on my mind this week. I was busy. So.
I will say, as we're going into the first match, I think I do agree that this wasn't the greatest pay-per-view.
Yeah.
But I think this one actually could have been great. There was decisions that were made where I'm like, you know, if they would have done that and that would have been a good match. But I feel that there was some things like I know we're going to get to like the Mabel being counted out. And it was just like, what? And like he was on that tear. And like, I mean, honestly, him, Bam Bam Bigelow, and King Kong Bundy doing some pretty acrobatic stuff for some big men.
For big dudes, yes.
And I was actually like watching it like, whoa, they actually like I didn't know Viscera could do that. Sorry, Mabel could do that. You know, like but it's like
yeah.
I think there was so many things where I'm like, oh, that missed. Oh, it's lost. It's lost now.
So now that we get into the match breakdown here, I gotta say, Undertaker, as the Undertaker pops up on the screen, bottom of the screen is the Nitromaniac TV Undertaker with the full news and notes from the 1994 WWF Survivor Series. Well, at least the results and the match times and so on and so forth. So we have a dark match that is not included on anything, thank God. There's no time listed on Wikipedia for it. But Bob Sparkplug Holly defeats Quang with Harvey Whippleman in a singles match prior to the pay-per-view jumping on the air. So in the effort of being as complete as we can be, that match happened.
Wow, Hardcore Holly's been a jobber all his life.
If he heard you say that, Ty, he would chop you so hard.
Well, remember
Too bad no one would ever see it.
Well, remember his. Everybody will listen to it though. But remember Bob Holly's grand championship plan or grand championship planning back in, what was it, 2004, 2005 ish or whatever. Just give me the belt. That's what it was. He literally walked into Vince McMahon's office one day and said, put me in the ring with them. Give me the belt. I'll kick everybody's ass.
And then Vince McMahon proceeded to take off his waist belt and beat Hardcore Holly with it in a dark match.
So there we go.
I think my favorite memory with Hardcore Holly is in the WWF cookbook. He had Hardcore Holly's meatballs, and it was the funniest fucking recipe. Like all these other wrestlers are like kind of having these like funny faces in their recipes, and like even like Kane's chili, he's like kind of like holding a bowl of chili. I was just like, that's pretty. Like it's like 99 Kane, so it's not like, oh, it's corporate Kane or like, you know, 40-year-old dad with a bad mask.
It's mid-card Kane. Yeah.
This is like this is like Red Machine. Like everybody's still afraid of him, Kane, and he's still having fun with a bowl of chili. And there's just oiled up Hardcore Holly like, eat my fucking meatballs. Dumbest thing ever, but it's there.
Give me the belt. Give me the belt. That's it. And don't forget, this wasn't Hardcore Holly at the time. This is Bob Sparkplug Holly. So he thought he was a NASCAR racer.
That's right. He was a NASCAR driver turned wrestler.
That's right. Left turn. And that's enough of that.
Well, let's get to the first goddamn match.
The first goddamn match is the Bad Guys, the team of 1, 2, 3 Kid, the British Bulldog, Fatu, Razor Ramon, and Sione, with Afa and Lou, Captain Lou Albano, taking on the Teamsters, Diesel, Double J Jeff Jarrett, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, I should say, Owen Hart, and Shawn Michaels. This one runs 21:45. With the Bad Guys getting the victory after a whole bunch of heel shenanigans and stuff and everything. This match basically is a launch pad to split Shawn Michaels and Diesel, as Diesel would go on to have bigger plans that we will talk about later on in the pay-per-view in and around the WWF Championship. But yeah, going into this pay-per-view, Shawn Michaels and Diesel, they were showing a little bit of dissension on all the syndicated programming and that stuff and everything. And then here at the pay-per-view, it blows right up. But before we discuss that, quick note on it. You'll see the name Sione and you wonder, okay, who is that? That's the Barbarian. They brought the Barbarian back in as the third head shrinker to cover for, which one's hurt? Samu. Samu is hurt right now. So they brought in Sione as the third head shrinker to cover for that time.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, let's call a spade a spade. I mean, Fatu, it's Rikishi. It's just Rikishi.
Yeah.
Having issues with his boot. And
what the hell was that?
What was going on? And it's just like, you just hear, it's like, well, Gorilla, we're getting ready for this match. Looks like it's going to be Owen Hart versus, you know, and then and he's just like, I don't know what to tell you, Vince. It's like, look down here. There's Fatu. He's got an issue with his boot.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
Well, just take a look at that kisser.
From what
kisser, so many kissers references.
They said that word every single time that they said that they meant to say face. They would say kisser, and I'm like, what the fuck are they doing?
Yeah.
Why was this the word of the day?
Do you think they were just having fun and just saying it for at home, for everybody at home? Like
I need to believe that in order to understand why this was done.
Well, the nightlife in San Antonio is supposed to be pretty good, so I would imagine these guys went out the night before and lit it up, right? So,
I also didn't notice that Shawn Michaels got a hometown pop, because this was in fact Shawn Michaels' hometown. He did get a pop for hometown.
No. Yeah, he did. It was a louder when they announced his name and that stuff. He did get a nice ovation with it.
I don't think so.
Maybe I missed that. I don't know.
I thought it was more of a boo.
it's hard even to tell too, because of like, all the after the sound sweetening, I should say, that they do in post production on these things too, and that stuff. So he could have gotten like, a big cheer, and then they went and they kind of mixed it out in post and that stuff, and maybe that's what we heard on the end of it. And that's the stuff I've seen online about it said that he got a hometown pop. So
interesting.
Yeah, so obviously, if you're watching maybe an off-air of the pay-per-view, like, one that you've recorded right to, a VHS tape or something like that from your cable provider, and not something on a network that's been polished or something like that, maybe that's what it is. But yeah, obviously, San Antonio is Shawn Michaels' hometown and that stuff, so it wouldn't surprise me about that. And it also wouldn't surprise me either way, too, in 1994, because he was still over as a heel. He would still be over as a heel for the most part. Maybe the middle of 95 is when that switches and he goes into a face mode just prior to the Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12 in 96, because by the time Bret and Shawn meet in that Iron Man match in 96, they're both faces. So it's a face versus face, and people are just cheering for which side you want to take, whether it's going to be Bret or Shawn, right? So
yeah, here he was clearly a heel, because Diesel turning on him and the crowd going nuts is kind of proof of that.
Yeah. How did we think the turn was handled? Was that it was kind of a little bit hokey, honestly, to look back on it.
I mean, they're tearing through, like, they're tearing through the bad guys, like they knock out the head shrinkers, they knock out did they knock out, who was it? Because it was Razor Ramon. And
well, I got the finish right here. So it's closing minutes of the match. There's a jackknife on Razor by Diesel because HBK tells him to do the jackknife one more time. I think it's the second jackknife on Razor in this match. HBK comes in and he wants Diesel to hold him for the super kick, and HBK nails Diesel with the super kick. Diesel is not happy with that, obviously, and starts shoving down team members, and he chases HBK out of the building. What I don't understand is the rest of the heel team deciding to follow HBK and Shawn to the back. It's like, you guys have an entire match to win here, and here you guys are just kind of filtering out, and that just leaves Razor as the sole survivor on the face side as the winner.
It's just, I remember at one point, I think the hard cam was on Owen Hart and the Anvil, and Owen's just like, we're gonna lose, and I was like and then just keep the Razor in the ring, and he just kind of like, he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna win. And I'm like, they could have done this where it's like, honestly, I would have taken out Jeff Jarrett, just get rid of him out of that match. You could have had him eliminated. You could have had Bulldog take out Owen, and maybe even Neidhart, and then have Diesel come in, maybe squash a couple, but like basically leave it as like Diesel, Shawn versus Razor.
Yeah.
And then have that spot between the two of them, and then have that break happen. And then as they're chasing up the ramp, not leave the building, but as they're up the ramp, all of a sudden the bell goes and they both turn, and then there's kind of Razor like you idiots, like if you're gonna do the count out thing, like maybe do it that way, so it's like not that you have the rest of your team standing there like, oh shit, like, oh no, we're just following you guys. Like, it's like why wouldn't the other guys just stay at the ring? Like, be like, well, they're leaving. Well, they're gonna get counted out. Well, then we're just going in. Like, it breaks that believability.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You couldn't have said it any better. And your version of this was actually really good. The one that you had set up, the little adjustment that would have made it a million times more palatable.
Yeah.
But instead, we had Diesel knock out everybody on the team except for Razor Ramon. And then Shawn Michaels, as you said, screwed it all up by trying to get the super kick in. Kicks Diesel instead. He flips his shit. And then he chases after Shawn with his entire team chasing after him, leaving Razor in the ring to win by countout. What the hell?
Yeah. Post-match, we go to the back with Todd Pettengill. By the way, here's Todd rocking that super cool Series shirt.
Wow, that looks worse when he wears it.
What a loser.
There we go. So he's in the back trying to talk to HBK as he's leaving the building, and HBK says he made that guy. He's a 0 with him, and or 0 without him, I should say. And shortly after, HBK leaves the building, just peels out. So yeah, the split is happening. The split has happened between Diesel and HBK. Like I said, more on Diesel later on in the show, especially after we talk about the WWF Championship match, because there's a fun little twist that happens at the end of that. Not on Survivor Series night, but a couple nights after. So,
two things I want to point out here. One, Vince and Gorilla had no chemistry. It feels like Gorilla was just kind of thrown in there like, hey, we kind of need somebody. Can you put on a hat and just kind of come out here?
Yeah.
They were not good together. Now listen to this.
Right.
Gorilla and Heenan, gold. Heenan and McMahon don't mix.
Yeah.
Gorilla and McMahon don't mix. Do you
Yes.
see a common denominator here?
It's McMahon.
Very good.
Well,
Good Lord, he's just awful with his two-tone voice of, and now it goes to the top, and he's down.
I think that part of that reason why there might be not that chemistry there is because, you know, he is the boss, and it's one of those things where, you know, like if you're kind of with like another like friend of yours that you work with, you know, you're like having those jobs. I remember where it's like, oh, it's just you and your buddy today, and you're like, oh, sick, yeah, we could work together in the back, it's all good, and you get that more chemistry where it's like, where if you have to be with your boss, and it's not that you don't like your boss, but it's just kind of like, I have to be in my best behavior, and I got to make sure I'm doing everything right because
Yeah.
it's my boss.
In hockey terminology, you choke up on a stick a bit.
Yeah, you choke
Yeah.
up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, you know, McMahon being notorious, I mean, as we know, like sitting in gorilla position, he will, you know, be yelling things through the headsets, you know, like the comment, like Michael Cole and whoever's with him, like even JR would get like Vince being like, you know, you're not doing your fucking job right. You got to talk this guy up. And, you know, you're like, oh shit. You're like, oh yeah, you know, Mark Jindrak. What a guy. He's the next fucking sensation. You better tell him that. It's like,
What a name drop.
Yeah.
What a name drop. Mark Jindrak.
Didn't he have like the lowest overall in one of the SmackDown versus Raw games?
He was
I
only
think
in
so.
one SmackDown vs. Raw game. It was like 2006, and I know that because I own that game.
Oh yeah.
He was
His overall like
also-
70.
He was also going to be, because when Batista
Yeah.
tore his tricep,
Yeah.
and he was out again because he was going to come back, and then he tore it again training,
Yeah.
because he wasn't healing properly. Jindrak was going to come in as the fourth man in Evolution.
That's right. Yeah.
I was watching something recently about it where like Triple H and Flair were traveling with him and Orton, and they said like him and Orton were like just like they were like kids.
Yeah.
They were just like ridiculously juvenile and stuff. Like and like what were like one of the things he said is like they brought this like kids game on, and they were just laughing about it because they just kept playing animal sounds and like giggling about it. And like he could like Triple H would like turn to Flair because they're sitting in the front. And like he'd be like, "Did you do this with you know Arn Anderson like back in the day? Just make animal noises and play with a kids game in the back seat, you know?" And I guess it kind of touches on that like generational difference nerve, right? Like you have some like Undertaker that's like guys had guns and knives in their bags, and like you know now there's guys playing video games, and like Xavier Woods is like, so what? Like, or you want me to carry dangerous weapons and threaten people's lives and do drugs? Is that what you want me to do, Mark Calloway? You know, but it's like it is one of those things where it's like just imagining Mark Jindrak being the animal, but it's like, no, of course it's got to be Batista.
No, of course not. Exactly. There is video out there that exists of Mark Jindrak walking with the other three members of Evolution when they shot the Titantron opening.
Given Mark Jindrak way too much time already on this cast. Let's get through the rest of this shit show.
Well, the next contest, the royal family of Jerry the King Lawler and Cheesy, Queasy, and Sleazy defeating Clowns Are Us, which is Doink the Clown, Dink the Clown, Pink the Clown, and Wink the Clown in 16 minutes and 5 seconds.
There they are. There it is.
I'm sorry, I couldn't do that with a straight face at all. That's going to be the hardest match to get through just because of it's just bad comedy slapstick for about 16 minutes. It's not funny at all. It's just like, oh my
at
God.
the time, I'm sure there was a lot of like, you know, the Texas hick kind of like, oh, look at the little guys running around there, damn. Like, to me, I'm like, I'm watching this now, and you have to understand it's a different time, I guess, but I'm kind of like, I'm like, man, like, you could have had, you know, like the dwarves wrestling and, you know, having them, you know, actually, like, some of them doing some pretty fun spots with each other. You know, some of them are doing some pretty cool things. Guy diving up the top rope. You know, there's something that could be done with that, I think. But I think that the whole, like, I would have preferred to see maybe this be a singles match between Doink the Clown and Jerry Lawler with them being the Lumberjacks. And they could have gone off on Jerry, and you could have done something with this where it would have come forward as more wholesome and better, and giving Doink the W, because Jerry is the heel that needs to get embarrassed, I think.
Yeah, exactly. You know, yes. And the way that the feud is shaped, that stuff, that Doink will be getting the W at the end of this, because, you know, Jerry Lawler is the heel and the heel commentator and that stuff. So what does he gain by winning this feud? Nothing. So I mean, that's you know, you're trying to reestablish Doink as a face now at this point, because he had been a heel in '93 going on. And this by the way is a different Doink. This is not Matt Bourne. This is Ray Apollo at the time playing Doink. Matt Bourne was the heel Doink that wrestled Crush at WrestleMania 9 and was the first guy that debuted as Doink. And then he had a contract dispute with WWE. They left, and they're like, well, we still got the character, so let's slap another guy in there and see what happens. And so that's what they got.
They did a Sin Cara thing,
basically, yes, with Doink. Yeah. And as we've seen in years following and that stuff, we've seen everybody from Brooklyn Brawler to Chris Jericho played Doink in various skits on Monday Night Raw and stuff. So it's something that kind of comes out of the woodwork from time to time. So again, yeah, it's comedy. I mean, like, this is the last image you see of the whole thing is, you know, the King getting a freaking cream pie in the face. So there we go.
Yeah,
so
little good comedy gold there. And I mean, I think it was just a bad match that unfortunately made the little guy wrestlers kind of just seem like cartoon characters. And I think that there could have been some brilliant ways they could have done those spots, and maybe just have it differently. But yeah, this was just a bad match. It was tacky and hokey, and then the pie in the face at the end. I'm like, yay. Like,
at that point I was checked out. I was just like, all right, we're ready for the next one at this point, so whatever. TL, you've been almost ready to go into convulsions over this.
He is about to explode. He's doing like the Chris Benoit neck twist.
You know, there was a way that you could have fixed the match. I mean, just to adjust things, and that was cancel the fucking match. What the goddamn motherfucker was that shit? Why did it run so long? Why was that 16 minutes of a man dressed as a clown against a man dressed as a fucking king? With 3 little kings and 3 little clowns in their fucking corner. What the hell were they thinking? Were they that thin on talent that they gave 16 goddamn minutes to this shit? It was
good point.
This was 1910s vaudeville black and white no sound comedy. The crowd was laughing. They were laughing the entire time.
Yeah.
What revenge is that? What revenge is that? A pie in the face? You are a professional wrestler. You're supposed to drop people on their heads, break legs, break arms, choke people out, strangle them, beat them down to a count of 3. A pie in the face is an insult?
Yep.
Why were we subjected to this? 16 minutes of this horseshit. Either cancel the match or make this 2 minutes as a nice little thing for the kiddies or whatever. Hey, by the way, I was a kid when this came out, and I wasn't fucking entertained by it the thought it was the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
The The one thing I did kind of like out of this match was
You got to be kidding me. You better not finish this sentence.
was the King's team kind of turning on the King at the end. That was kind of just the way it happened was pretty hilarious. This is like the union of the little kings decided to turn on the big king, and that was it. So that's straight for numbers, I guess. That was that. So that, but yeah, terrible.
Tyler is insane.
And there's the show opening for next month. Right.
No. I want to stay this for one more second for one last point.
Okay.
This is a point in our childhood, my childhood, sorry, where the big question was, is it real or is it fake? Is it real or is it fake?
Yeah.
And my dad would always make fun of us because he'd say, it's fake, right? It's fake, right? It's fake, right? And us as kids are like, no, it's real. And so was Santa and the Easter Bunny. And Santa and the Easter Bunny went to the side because we knew they weren't real. But we still had wrestling. We still had Bret Hart. We were like, how could that be fake? Look what he's doing to him. Look what he's doing to him. Look at Owen Hart. That can't be fake. And then the Burger King takes on the Party Clown. And from that day forward, I'm like, oh, shit, this is fake. Phony, bullshit, ruin the business. Yeah. And for what? A couple of laughs from some kids in San Antonio? Fuck them kids. Yeah, I said it. Fuck them kids.
Is having a 7 foot tall undead wizard realistic? After he gets defeated, rises up.
Is that more? But is that laughable?
Peace.
Or was that laughable, or was that interesting to a 7-year-old?
It was more to the point of like when people are like, it's fake, right? I'm like, oh yes, I actually believe he's undead.
Yes.
That's not the point. It's about the interest of the character and suspending your disbelief.
Yes.
Now, if you can't do that, it is 100% fake and phony. With The Undertaker, you could, because he was 7 feet tall, because he was athletic, because he was actually wrestling. Yes, he's playing the character of a coffin maker from the Old West.
Yeah.
But it's menacing and it's scary. Same with Kane. He's a deranged lunatic who kills people, yet he still wears a full spandex suit from neck to toe. Right? But he was still menacing, and he was still interesting, and he still scared the shit out of you with fire.
Yeah, but no, all I'm saying is that the people I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is that people, when people say like, you're like, oh come on, it's so fake, and I'm like, they said it to you. Like when I was a kid, I knew wrestling was fake, but I was entertained by it. And like, it's exactly what you're saying, because I was like, yeah, of course I don't think the Undertaker is actually undead. And I don't think Kane is burned all over the place. I mean, he's wearing a tight spandex suit. That's going to feel great on burns, and he's getting slammed around a ring. And yet he's horribly burned, yet he has a perfect head of hair. Like, I mean, like flowing locks.
Hair club for men.
Now, there's one thing I need to point out to you is that when you started watching wrestling was in the late 90s to the early 2000s. Vince McMahon goes on screen and says, "We're tired of lying to our fans. Yes, it's fake. It's entertainment. It's sports entertainment."
Yeah.
Now, back when I was a kid, there's no UFC yet. There's no mixed martial arts, well, televised or anything. We had wrestling. And that question was a legit question. Is it real or is it fake? And then you have a clown come out and take on a king, and it's over. You're like, oh shit, it's fake.
So when Macho Man Randy Savage got bit by a cobra, he didn't die. That was a
that's how strong he was.
No. A king cobra that can, with one venomous bite, could drop an elephant.
There was no venom. He legit bit him. The bite was real. When he took the snake off, he really did bleed.
Yep.
That should happen.
He should have died then.
There we go. Exactly. So
you cannot compare Jake the Snake and Macho Man to Doink and Lawler. I'm not going to let you get away with that one. For 16 goddamn minutes.
I just did.
And it was incorrect. Good sir.
See, this is the type of deep cut theology we get into on Nitro Maniac TV, Wrestling Unlimited, and classic Nitros Take Live. Where else can you find this great debate of?
I was livid watching this match, rewatching this match. I was absolutely livid. I'm like, why won't it fucking end? Why won't it end?
I mean, I took it for an ill attempt at slapstick humor, but I was like, okay, looking at what was upcoming on the card and that stuff, it's like, okay, well, this is probably
you want slapstick humor? Go watch some Charlie Chaplin. Go watch some Black and White with some no audio. This is professional wrestling.
Well, it's not pump the brakes. It's not the best example of professional wrestling. It was the mid-90s.
This is the goddamn pay-per-view. People paid money to see this, and they got 16 minutes of a clown wrestle a king.
Yes, because
what did the main event get?
The main event, 15-24 for the
main event got less time than this match. You've got to be kidding me. They made the poster about the man. The whole pay-per-view was on the back of The Undertaker taking on Yokozuna in the main event, and it got less time than this shit show.
Well, Ty, clowns are beloved childhood figures of joy.
To who? To who? Name a clown right now that you have any respect for.
I mean, look at him.
Ronald McDonald.
They're harmless. Honestly,
Ronald McDonald.
Exactly.
He's a burger empire.
A burger mascot that showed up for a 15-second commercial to sell you some hamburgers and fries.
Yes.
He had the McNugget Buddies, Ronald Grimace, McDonald. And Mary McCheese with him.
This match was Ronald McDonald versus the Burger King. I mean, it was that simple.
Basically.
Why the fuck would I pay money to watch that?
I don't know, because it was like an in vogue, not even an in vogue thing. It was just something that was happening in pop culture at the time. It's just like the fast food wars, I guess. All we were missing, honestly, in this is some redheaded woman at ringside with a basket screaming that her name was Wendy. That's it.
Yep.
So, and then maybe like the Colonel walking out in like a white. Maybe not at an event at this scale, but if we were talking like an independent wrestling event, sure. But
and that's the problem. That right there is the problem, is that the independent people would do that kind of stupid shit.
Death match.
It's Burger King, accompanied by the Dairy Queen.
Yes.
See, that puts butts in seats.
It would. People would
it's put asses and cars into drive-thrus. That's where it should be. That should not happen inside of a wrestling ring.
Burger King, Dairy Queen, and they would do a promotion in the stands. They would do like a $10 off dilly bar deal.
$10?
Yeah, you get like a box of dilly bars. You get $10 for a box of dilly bars. You know, and because it would work.
And then you could.
So you like the dilly bars.
And you can roll up and go dilly dilly, and show
like the dilly bars, unpeel a dilly bar and take it out of the box, like that, and then you turn that son of a bitch sideways and stick it straight up your candy ass.
I'll tell you what, Ty. I came in this morning. I had a box of dilly bars.
What?
And then I had a peanut butter parfait.
What?
Then I had a banana split.
What?
And then I had a blizzard.
What?
Then I had a flamethrower cheeseburger.
What?
And then I opened up a can of whoop ass on the Dairy Queen.
And old Stone Cold had to go get checked for diabetes.
I think we can go to the next match.
Let's go to the next match before I lose my fucking shit.
Exactly. So, well, hey, the next match could be considered one of the two takeaways from this pay-per-view, because a lot of important stuff happens in the next contest here. It is the submission match for the WWF Championship between the champion, Bret the Hitman Hart. He's got the British Bulldog in his corner holding the towel, and I'll explain what the towel means in a second. His opponent is former WWF champion Bob Backlund, who has the King of Hearts, Owen Hart, in his corner. The runtime for this thing is 35 minutes and 11 seconds. And here's the situation going into the match here is that on the preceding months of Monday Night Raw and that stuff, Bob Backlund, who had returned in 1993 from, wherever, they just signed him back in, was a kind of a goofy face technician, good guy wrestler. He wrestled Bret the Hitman Hart during the fall of 1994 in a one-on-one kind of goodwill type contest, and Bret beat him. Shortly thereafter, Backlund starts to, snap a little bit, to the point where infamously on Monday Night Raw, Bob Backlund froze Vince McMahon in the crossface chicken wing and adopts the Mr. Backlund persona, which for a young Kellen Nitro was one of the first real scary heels he saw on TV. I was legit afraid of this dude when I was 9-10 years old. Like, I thought this dude was like legit nuts on TV. So, make of that what you will. Good job. Kudos to that. Owen, of course, came up short at SummerSlam for his quest for the title. Still hates his brother Bret. Still wants to see Bret fail at everything that he wants to do. And so signs up immediately when Backlund gets the match at Survivor Series. And actually, in storyline, it's Owen's idea to have the submission match, but it's Backlund's idea to use the towel, because in 1984, when Backlund lost the title to the Iron Sheik at MSG, again, this is WWF lore, Backlund's manager, Arnold Skoland, threw in the towel. Backlund did not submit at all in the camel clutch from the Iron Sheik. It was Backlund's manager that balled up the towel and threw it into the ring, and the ref took that as a sign that, hey, they're throwing in the towel, that's it. So that ended a close, what is it, Ty? A close to 5-year title reign for Backlund or something?
Yeah, it's over 2,000 days.
Yeah, over 2,000 days. So this is Backlund's attempt to get the title back. Of course, Bret Hart's the champion. He's been the champion since WrestleMania 10. Has gone through guys like Diesel this year, has gone through his brother Owen, avenging the loss to Owen at WrestleMania 10 in the opening match. And so here we go into this contest. Before we talk about the ending and all the chicanery and that stuff, what did everybody think of the contest, about the first 80% of the match? Because to me, the first 80% of the match is a pretty decent technical match between the two of them.
I agree. I think that the first, the beginning of the match was, two submission specialists, technical wrestling. I mean, this isn't, if you're looking for the high flying exciting, no, this isn't your jam. So I can see why some might see it as boring, but watching them go from hold, reversal to reversal, like it was, and like Bob Backlund, a talented, I mean, he was an NCAA wrestler, like he was a legitimate amateur wrestler, freestyle wrestler. And, Bret Hart, obviously, very well trained in wrestling in his own right. Like just seeing them go back and forth and like putting on the different holds and like it was a clinic, really. I mean, it really, if you wanted to be a technical wrestler, and really like, this would be a match to add on a top 10 list of matches to watch to be a technical.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, definitely. For sure. I think this is one that they still show in some schools to this day, to at least to show the in-ring part between the two of them, because the in-ring play is amazing between both these guys. And both these guys are, if not at the top of their level, really close to the top of their level in 1994. So.
Yeah. What about you, Ty?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
explain.
Bob Backlund is 45 years old in this match.
That's another thing. Yes.
He is not in his prime.
No.
His prime is when he's holding the WWF title for 5 years.
Yes.
This is after a long time away from that. He does look like an old man wearing blue underwear. More so than any wrestler I've ever seen in my life. I don't know what it was about his look. He just looked like an old gym teacher in his in his Coach Hines shorts.
The warm up, the pre-match warm up in the corner is a little unsettling with the dude. I must admit, because he does the rope stretch, and then he does the duck swatch thing with the twist, and it's like meh. No,
It's not pudding for sure.
I do think like the one thing that kind of was putting me off about it, and I know it was the character that he was playing it was the Mr. Backlund character that he's playing at the time, but like every move that Brett hit him with, it was like it wasn't just enough for him to be like or whatever to go down. Like he gets flipped over and he's just like and I'm like, okay, this is almost like too much.
You can hear him, like nobody else.
And like Brett puts him in a move, and he's like, and I'm just kind of like, it's kind of taking away a little bit. Like I get it, he's playing this crazy dude, but I was like, maybe dial it back in the ring a bit. But I mean, Bob Backlund is known to be he was a very intense guy and dedicated to the character. Still is. And like people say, like they'll bump into him and they'll be like, "Oh, Bob Backlund, I loved you when you were in wrestling, man. Like, it must be nice being retired." And he's just like, "I'm still," and you're just like, "Oh, you're still doing this." Like, if you're a fan, like you're getting Bob Backlund, the character. You're not getting Robert Backlund or whatever his full name is. Like you're gonna get Bob Backlund. So, I mean, he is fully still in that kayfabe when he comes to talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think that it was definitely a different pairing for Brett to have going between 94, and this does stretch into 95 a bit too, as we'll talk about a little bit later here in the stream, into the review. But I think that this is because you had him winning the title over Yokozuna, so there's a big giant power heel right there, the monster heel, power heel, at WrestleMania. And then you go right from there to build up to a match with another big heel, Diesel, at the King of the Ring. And so they have that contest, and Brett is successful there. And then, they've tried to basically market Owen as maybe the mirror image, or the black heart, the evil brother, if you will, of Brett, which basically that's how he was portrayed on TV, and going forward. And at SummerSlam, the cage environment in that match kind of doesn't really do it justice. I think that if they had that title match again, I would have liked to have seen like maybe not an Iron Man, but maybe you could do like different stipulations, like last man standing or something like that. So, but that's along that lines there. But it's a cage match. It is what it is, and it's.
But we're not here to talk about that one. We're here to talk about Backlund and Brett.
With Bob Backlund, yes, and yeah, it's a completely different way, because it's Hitman putting his wares on the line against an old shooter like his dad. Almost like, Bob Backlund is a shooter. Yeah. Bottom line,
a shoot wrestler. Yes. And he will tie you up in a knot. And, has they go back and forth trying to tie each other up in knots during this contest. I just want to point out that we spent like 15 minutes talking about the lore, the build-up, the history, that everything that goes into this match.
Yes.
And this is on the same card as a clown and a fucking king. I just want you to know the difference in the storytelling from that match and this match.
Well, you can tell which one had more time devoted to it, definitely. So that's the least I can see about that.
Ty, have you ever seen the movie Frozen?
No, I haven't.
There's a song in Frozen, and
don't you dare!
Like this.
Don't you dare!
Let it go. Let it go. We brought back painful childhood memories of time pay-per-view by selecting this.
I guess so. I was just
visibly.
And that's the beauty part about this, guys. Is that I know how I'm going to react with this stuff. I have no idea how these guys are going to react. So that's the whole thing.
But I do agree. The end of this match, in particular, was awful.
Well, I'll go over it right now.
It took way too long.
It did. Yeah, it was too many steps. So what happens is there's a sharpshooter attempt and in the ring, and Brett's trying to put the sharpshooter on Backlund. Owen sneaks in, and the Bulldog is chasing him. So it's the old quartermen are chasing each other thing going around the ring. Owen nails Bulldog in the process of it. So it's kind of, well, okay, there we go. Hands up, go. I see that.
Can I just sum it up like this?
You can go ahead, yeah.
Bulldog goes down.
Yes.
Bob Backlund puts the chicken wing on the Hitman.
Yes, there we
This
go.
whole match has been building up of
too far
sharpshooter
ahead.
versus the crossface chicken wing.
Mhm.
Which is the deadlier submission?
Yes, that's the sub storyline. Because the crossface chicken wing had been taking out everybody Backlund had been in the ring with prior to,
and nobody has gone out of the sharpshooter.
Yeah, that's right.
Whoever gets put into it, the sharpshooter.
That's
so
right. Yes.
That was what this is all about. And all of a sudden, Bob Backlund finally gets the crossface chicken wing on Bret Hart.
Yes.
The crowd is cheering for him. The kids are crying for him. And then all of a sudden, there it is. All of a sudden, Owen starts crying for Bret.
Yes.
And
suspiciously,
Owen and Bret's mom and dad, Helen and Stu Hart, are in the crowd in the very first row in the corner of the barricade. And they're watching this. And Owen starts crying to them, "Do something. You got to do something. Look, it's my brother. He's going to kill him. He's going to break his arm and he's going to die somehow. Come on, you got to do something. I'm begging you, Mom." He's on his knees. He opens the barricade to let them through, puts the towel in Stu's hand, and he says, "Just throw in the towel and save Bret. You got to do something."
And Stu's not having any of it.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Stu's not having any of it.
Has his hold on Bret Hart, and he's flopping, and he's
flopping. Yeah.
Bret, let's go. It's been 5 minutes, and he has not gotten out of this hold whatsoever. The referee won't stop the match. He doesn't think it's been enough. He doesn't think that there's anything that's going to happen here. All he knows is no one's submitting, and there's no towel being thrown. Let's let this hold continue for 5 of the longest minutes. Second longest, only to that other match I've been talking about.
Yeah. I'll go back there.
Keeps going until eventually Helen yanks the towel out of Stu Hart's hand and throws it in the ring and ends the match.
Yeah.
And Bret loses the title. Owen jumps in the ring, grabs the towel, woos in the air, and runs away laughing because he tricked his mom into saving Bret but costing him the title. By pretending like he cared for his brother for once.
And
on paper sounds great. In execution, 5-minute submission where nobody moves.
Yeah.
It is one of those things where it's like you were saying, Ty, like it's the buildup between the sharpshooter versus the crossface chicken wing, and like which submission is deadlier. And it's like clearly the sharpshooter, because you can be in the crossface chicken wing for about 10 fucking minutes and you're not going to tap out. You'll just be like, "Oh, this is really bad," and then. and then Owen Hart does some of the worst acting. "My brother, oh, Mom, I didn't want this." And I mean, Stu Hart is a shooter. I mean, like the guy, even in that age, like, I mean, talk to guys like Jericho and guys that went to the dungeon that said, like, "Oh yeah, this guy in his 70s is going to put you in an actual strangle hold and you're going to cry about it because he's that good and he's that tough." But I mean, Stu, the emotional range of a piece of plywood.
Yeah, he does not emote. He does not emote at all, and it's just, even
this is him
exactly. Yeah, just standing there. Yeah, Tiger.
And what he's doing.
And is it Nancy Hart? Nancy Hart, is that her name? And
Helen. Yeah,
Helen Hart is just like. And I was, Bret's dying. And, yeah. And Brad's like,
He wasn't Italian American.
my brother is dying.
My brother is dying in there. You gotta do something.
The British Bulldog is
It kind of reminds me.
he hit his head on what looked like a wooden stair. It was the lightest bump that he took to hit the stairs. But
Oh God, yeah.
Yo,
Yeah.
but it made a nice ping.
Yeah. Bulldog made a nice sound on the outside.
Yeah,
It made a
but
nice
it looked-
ping when he touched
Yeah.
that. He touched
did,
the
yeah.
stairs. And
It
he
looked-
was lifeless for 5 minutes. There were
Yeah.
no paramedics on the way. The referee's not stopping this match. Death is allowed for at least 5 minutes.
Exactly.
my brother, and then and eventually, Helen stands up, and Stu Stu rips the towel out of her hands, just like oh for fuck, like
Yeah, exactly.
like it's fine, okay, like he's taking, I put him in work.
It's Brett. You're gonna be saying.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then so then Hogan takes off. I honestly think this match could have been about 10 minutes shorter.
Yep.
And I would have put it a different stipulation. I understand that they were trying to tie in the whole Bob Backlund towel thing.
Yeah.
And I know that's what he was trying to redeem himself for. But like, I know that Bob Backlund had the title for about 3 days and he lost it on a house show to Diesel.
That's what I was going
Yeah.
to get to. Yeah. The postscript to this is free. So to this day, the gap between the two Backlund title reigns is the longest in WWE history. It was 11 years and 7 months from when he lost it to the Iron Sheik to when he regained it against Brett. So that still stands today. The postscript is 3 days later at Madison Square Garden, during a house show, Backlund loses the WWF title to Diesel in 8 seconds. The bell rings. Backlund gets jackknife powerbombed, and Nash goes down for the cover and gets the free count. And Diesel is the new WWF champion going into 1995.
And it would have made a lot more sense to have, I honestly think, in a situation, to have a fake turn of Owen maybe throwing in the towel to screw Backlund again. Because imagine that then it becomes this thing where like Backlund goes after Owen because he's like, it was one time that I got screwed by the guy with the towel, and then he gets screwed again with the towel. Because I mean, if you really had no plans for his title, if Bob Backlund went on to have like another half a year title reign and lose the match,
it would make sense.
It would have made sense. But like the fact that it was going to go the way it was, and Backlund was kind of coming for a one-off almost, it's like have him almost have that happen again, or have it go to like a no contest, have it go to like where like you have that triumphant moment where Helen rips the towel and like slaps Owen and it's just like, you did this or something like that. And then eventually gets to the point where the referee just stops the match and he's like, because this ended in a no contest, the winner is Bob Backlund, but still WWF heavyweight champion.
Yep,
that
like
thing. Have some kind of like a false finish, have some like, I don't know, or like obviously this wasn't a stipulation at the time, but like if Hart somehow retained, then send down Big Daddy Cool, then have him do like a Money in the Bank type thing where he cashes in or some shit, and then.
Well, yeah, the Money in the Bank concept hadn't been developed yet in 1994. The issue at hand though is they've anointed Diesel as the next WWF champion, obviously, and so now the plan is, how are we going to get the belt off of Brett? It always seems like there's always a plan to get the belt off of Brett. I don't understand with this company, but there we go. But how do we get the belt off of Brett without Brett looking weak going through to Diesel? And so I could kind of sort of see them, okay, give it to a transitional champion like Bob for a few days, and then you could squash him at a house show and it doesn't matter because it's Bob. Who cares? But the thing is
just never done that. They should have just never squashed him at a house show.
But yeah, it's just, if you like 3 days later going to freaking squash the champ fresh off of the pay-per-view, then why did you have the match at the pay-per-view to begin with? It makes just zero sense.
This is another incident of back-to-back moments where you wasted people's time and money with some stupidity.
Yeah.
This one just being in the booking side of it. Now,
and you've also wasted the build of the Mr. Backlund character, who was this heel that was, killing everybody with his crossface hold and that stuff, because the guy that beat him for the title just took him 8 seconds, and all he did was boot him once and then frickin' powerbomb him, and that was it.
Yeah.
I actually thought of a different way you could have ended this without the whole bullshit.
Okay.
And still give Backlund the title and go through that whole thing with Diesel if they are really going to do that. Why not have like Owen Hart and Bulldog honestly get into a skirmish, and Owen Hart pulls a little Eddie Guerrero magic, and Bret's Hart ends up in the ring, and it makes it look like the British Bulldog threw it in by accident.
Oh, his towel, yeah.
And the ref sees it and goes, "Oh, that's it, ring the bell." And then the Bulldog's like, "No, I didn't throw it," or something like that. And then Owen runs away like, because that's still okay. It would have eventually Backlund loses the Diesel, but then you could have kept that Owen Brett feud going, and then eventually I think Brett wins it back. I think next year. So
the other way, for me, the other way that you could have done this was you could have not had Bulldog get knocked out for 5 minutes unconscious and still done the exact same thing, but just do it sooner. As the match progresses, you see Owen lose his what do you call it? At first, he's very cheerful. He's cheering on Bob Backlund.
Yes.
And he's really into it. And then slowly as the match goes, you see that enthusiasm kind of shrivel away, and he starts to get more concerned for Brett as the match continues.
I can kind of see that.
And then by the time that he's got Brett in the crossface, then Owen starts freaking out immediately.
Oh my God, what's going on?
He's like, no. He's like, I didn't really want this. And then goes over to Bulldog, Helen, and Stu in the corner and pleads for them to throw the towel in.
Yeah.
But just do it sooner. Don't have him in the hole for 5 minutes and then start freaking out.
Exactly.
Freak out as soon as he gets the hold on, because that was the thing, was as soon as you get the hold, you're done. So have that turn on with Owen go early. By the time he gets that lock in, now he's pleading on the other side to throw in the towel, and then you can still have the mom throw it in and whatever.
Yeah,
that would have cut that thing 5 minutes short, would have got it way faster, and you would have got a better effect than what you did.
You would have, definitely, for sure. But it is how they presented it and that stuff, and that's what it is. And believe it or not, even with that chicanery and that stuff, it's one of the two matches you could pull out of the show and show somebody and be like, yes, this is the new generation wrestling.
I ain't show nobody this match.
So
I would tell somebody to watch the first 20 minutes of this match and then turn it
off. Yeah. Right when the head scissors happens between Owen and Bulldog on the outside, just turn it off. Yes, exactly.
After Bulldog gets KO'd, turn it off.
Yeah, exactly. So backstage, Todd Pettengill is in the backstage with Owen Hart. Owen says it's a setup. Well, duh. And I have to say here, kudos to Owen. He got 2 of the belts that he plugs during a promo as well. Did you notice that? He said that he's going to go on to be, he has no guilt over this, and he's going to become a tag team champion, an intercontinental champion, and the WWF champion. Well, he got 2 out of the 3, so, you kind of wish he got the 3rd one, but hey, kudos.
And Brett, I'm going to take that title away from you.
Yeah.
Woo!
Woo! We have the woo, exactly. And we have to wait for Backlund's comments there coming up later in the evening.
I just wanted to quickly throw back just a 5-second tidbit of after, I think it was the second match. I think it was after the match that will not be named. But it cuts back to the back and there's just Diesel on a phone because Shawn Michaels stormed away, and there's just a 5-second cut of Diesel on the phone looking like he's like talking to Telus about his and he's just kind of like, I don't know, and it cuts back, and I was like, that's amazing.
Well, we also have to go back to, I think in that same sequence because we went over this as well, is a Todd Pettengill backstage figure I want to just hit on quickly. Todd Pettengill backstage is talking. This is after the Clown King thing, whatever. And he's talking in footage from the Ig Dome title change between Alundra Blaze and Bull Nakano takes place. I'm going to explain this a little bit. So that is the infamous Ig Dome show that is 10 hours long. You think today's modern WrestleManias are long, you ain't seen nothing until you sat through this thing. This show legit is 10 hours and 15 minutes long. And the Alundra Blaze Bull Nakano WWF title match was the semi-main event for the thing. So they were like, the second last match out there over in 10 hours. So this title change happened a good, day or two before. But, he's just going to leave here. Creep out of the corner.
Right back.
Okay, so he's gonna go and freshen up or something. So as I explained this a little bit, so this match happens, and it is the Igdome match itself is pretty good. I've watched it a couple times on YouTube and that stuff. The problem is the crowd is absolutely dead, because you would be dead as well if you sat in your seat for 8 hours and then all of a sudden this thing jumped on. So having sat through a few long WrestleManias in person myself, including 35, where the show actually overran the limits for the New Jersey Transit operating schedule, and nobody had a way to get home that night. It's not a fun deal.
Really? That was the WrestleMania in New York, New Jersey?
Newark, New Jersey. That was the Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair main event. Yeah.
Oh, you were in the stadium for that?
Yes. Yeah. I was floor level for that one. Yeah. It was a good show, and I was having fun until we got to hour 4, and we hadn't even seen the Roman Reigns Drew McIntyre match, and we still looked on the thing, and we still had Roman Reigns Drew McIntyre. We still had like Elias and John Cena. We still had the women's title main event to go, and realizing that, oh crap, this thing isn't anywhere close to ending. And they had just brought out the Hall of Fame inductees, and it's like, oh, they are stretching this, aren't they?
Wow.
Yep.
Exactly. I honestly, at that point, I'm almost pissed.
No.
Like, if I'm sitting there for 4 hours and I'm like, there's still like a third of the card to go. And then, like, honestly, like, I would be like, okay, and I get out of the stadium, and like, what time did you get out of the stadium?
So it took an hour to get from. So they had us all hoteled up at Times Square in New York City. So it was about an hour train ride, maybe less than an hour, probably about 50 minutes or so train ride from downtown New York to the Meadowlands, where the MetLife Stadium, where the football stadium is there, where Mania was. So that was on our way there. So by the time I got out of there, it was shortly after midnight, maybe midnight 15 Eastern, and the show had started at about 4:30 that day.
I leave for 3 minutes, and you get all the way over to WrestleMania, whatever it was.
Yeah, we're at WrestleMania 35. Yeah. So it was like 6.5 hours long. Like, it was just insane. But again, nothing compared to the 10-hour long Igdome.
You are still talking about how long the Igdome was? I am 5 pounds lighter, and you are still talking about this.
I was going to comment that I thought Bull Nagano looked like she was doing an advertisement for Slim Jim with the hair sticking.
With the hairstyle, yeah. She's an interesting story too, but we'll get into that another day. Because she's basically made the transition from professional wrestling to like the Japanese equivalent of the LPGA.
Oh,
she's actually won some tournaments over in Japan. Yeah, she's that good. It's crazy. Yeah, insane. So, all right. Well, let's continue on with this. We got a couple more matches to go, so we will blow through these. We've got a 5v5 Survivor Series matchup. It is the final 5v5 Survivor Series matchup on the evening, which takes place, and it consists of the $1 Million Team of the Heavenly Bodies, King Kong Bundy, Tatanka, and Bam Bam Bigelow, taking on Guts and Glory, which is Adam Bomb, Mabel, Lex Luger, and the Smoking Guns. And this is a 5v5 Survivor Series elimination match. This thing runs 23 minutes and 21 seconds. The $1 Million Team defeats Guts and Glory in that amount of time. And the big theme for this one, I was watching this, is, oh, how far Lex Luger has fallen from the main event scene in WWE to this. This is there's no reason why, and he's going to fall a little bit more going into 1995. And, no wonder he shows up at the Mall of America on Labor Day in 1995 on WCW TV. Like, there's nothing for him here.
So did he ever win the WWF Championship?
He did not.
No, but there was a moment where, like, what was the moment? Where was the moment? The match he won, was it WrestleMania, where he got like picked up and carried after he like won a match or something? Was that
SummerSlam,
No,
SummerSlam 1993, and he got a countout victory over Yokozuna, who was the WWF champion. So the
I thought
the
that-
title did not change hands, but he knocked out Yokozuna. Yokozuna went for the ropes and flopped on the outside.
I thought it's because he slammed him.
That was on the USS Intrepid leading up to a SummerSlam.
Yeah, that was the big thing, is that he was able to slam Yokozuna.
Slam
nobody else
Yokozuna,
was.
yeah. I think he might have slammed Yokozuna again at SummerSlam, but the finish of the SummerSlam match
No, he
is
couldn't.
Oh, he couldn't. That's right. Yeah. So, but the finish of the SummerSlam match is Luger hits Yokozuna with the forearm, and Zuna tumbles out of the ring, and he can't make it back up into the ring by the count of 10. So Luger wins, but does not win the title because of the old count out thing. Yeah.
that finish alone is probably what helped kick him down the card, because that's like, I don't know. That's kind of like, you're gonna pick him up and carry him around after he gets a count out victory. Like
Victory,
that's
yeah.
that's like
And
you
the
know,
sparklers go off in the arena, and it's all America and Stars and Stripes Forever play, and that's stuff. And the whole
that would be like me going to like the Royal Mayfair Golf Club in Edmonton and like beating me and my friends in a round of golf, and like I have the best score at like 102,
yes,
and they come out and put a green jacket on me,
that's
like,
right. Woo!
and it's like, what did you shoot? 102? And they're like, well, that's nothing to celebrate. And it's like, well, I won though.
That's right.
Oh,
Best in class.
spread out the floats. It's time for my parade.
That's right. Exactly.
I mean, that would be the equivalent had you beaten the man who had the best score on the course at that time, which would be 101, and you body slammed him as well.
Well, yeah.
I would body slam. Like if a big guy came out, I'd pick up Yokozuna, body slam him on the 18th green. And
Yeah,
Exactly.
Remind me not to be on the same course as Frazier this summer. We'll just put it that way.
You've been warned.
I've been warned. There we go. So, what did we think of this encounter? Because this was this again, outside of watching this and being like, man, Lex, what the hell did you say to somebody to put you in this thing?
You know what I thought? There's something in this match where, you know what? I started to realize there's some big motherfuckers in the WWF at the time.
Yes.
Mabel, Adam
Big
Bomb,
dude.
Bam
Yes.
Bam Bigelow.
Yes.
This is, what's his
Well-
face? King Kong
Well,
Bundy.
King Kong Bundy too. Yeah.
Taker.
Second run.
Diesel.
Taker, yeah. Yeah.
Razor.
Yeah.
The guns are actually huge.
Oh yeah. Both Billy and Bart are stacked. Like
Yeah,
they're big
they're
dudes.
actually like really big. They
Yeah.
never really
Well,
pumped that when they were in the WWF.
even
Holy
today,
shit,
you
towers.
watch Billy Gunn on AEW. He's one of the taller dudes.
Oh,
that
he's
got
2 feet
there.
taller than everybody.
He's 6'6".
And that was the one thing I kept looking at. I'm like, wow, he's so young here, but also, wow, he looks the exact same here.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like,
It's
wow,
crazy.
this guy didn't age at all.
He did not.
this wasn't the greatest match for me. I think it might have been a little bit better than the first Survivor Series match.
Yeah.
Just because it didn't have like, it had one kind of shitty count out with Mabel there.
Yeah.
As I mentioned. But this is obviously leaps and bounds better than the match that shall not be named.
And
But-
Craig, you wanted to talk because you talked earlier now. So if you want to talk about again, we'll talk about the big men in this match and that stuff. If you want to talk about the quality of, just piggybacking what TL said, the quality of the big men in this match are just, they're pulling off moves like you can't believe.
Oh yeah,
Dudes that size must do
Blue
it.
kicks. I think Mabel did an Enziguri.
Yes.
Yes, he
I was like,
did.
what are you doing? I was like, that is incredible. That's like 500 pounds. And he did a step up at Seguri. I was like, holy
Yeah.
fuck. It was like a shining wizard. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it was like incredible athleticism from the big guys.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say, honestly, the man of the match for me, in terms of the guy that was in there a lot, that was performing well, was Tatanka. Like
Yes.
he was carrying so much of it. And
Yeah.
to be honest, when him and Billy Gunn were going at it near the end there, I was like,
Yeah.
these guys should title too. And then they kind of had like kind of a chintzy end there, and I was like, oh, and like Tatanka caught Bart Gunn and like did like he was trying to do his finisher, but it was like a modified version of his finisher, and like it knocked him out. And I was like, and like Tatanka was like getting beat on for like by like this turn after turn from the Smoking Guns and Lex, and then
he hit him right in the kisser.
Yeah. And then he hits like one move on Bart Gunn and pins him for a 3 count.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I think honestly, yeah.
Well, the finish for this thing, of course, is the story. Can Luger beat the odds? The answer is no. Luger rolls up Tatanka to get a 1-2 free count on Tatanka, who he was feuding with because Tatanka had turned on Luger at SummerSlam that year. And so that's the whole $1 million, and had joined a $1 million corporation, sold out to the $1 million corporation.
He was corporate Tatanka.
He was the corporate Tatanka. Yes, exactly. For a 1-2
the big question is, why isn't IRS on the team of the $1 million man?
Honestly, I think
only
IRS
because he came in later.
No, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Honestly, I think the reason why he's probably in a contract dispute with WWE.
No, didn't he run in?
Oh, he does. Yes, at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, because he does a run in to take out.
Because I was going to say in '95 he jumps to WCW. IRS.
Yes, but in this event, he's not on the team because he comes out of nowhere to take out. I want to say Lex Luger.
That's right.
No. Schuster comes in the main event.
Oh, yeah, because he's one of the heels that comes out. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
No, like Luger gets the roll-up pin on Tatanka, and then it's King Kong Bundy just comes in and
Bundy splashes him. Yeah. And the Soul Survivors are Bundy and Bam Bam. Yeah.
And then they start beating up on Luger, and then the rest of Luger's team comes out and they chase them all out of the ring, and they go, yeah. And I was like,
yeah.
And it was kind of like, I'm like, why didn't you guys? I don't know. Like in my moment, I would have loved for it should have come down to I love a final 3 of Tatanka, Bigelow, and Bundy versus Lex and the Smoking Guns. Because if you're trying to do something with Lex still at this point, you gotta, I think in this situation after the shortfalls, this is a moment where he's got to go over, because I guess you could say that like the next big moment is how, like, spoilers to the main event, like the $1 million man's team kind of comes out again to distract the Undertaker, but
it's a whole team of heels. It's like the entire heel locker room that comes out.
Yeah, basically. And I think that in this moment, it's like, at least have it get down to, you have, however you want to do the eliminations, but basically bring it down to Lex versus Bigelow and Bundy. And if honestly you do some kind of a slam spot with Bundy or Bigelow, or like some kind of reversal thing, I honestly think Lex should pick up the W here, because even if it's just him beating, like, let's say that he pins Bundy for the win, then, you could keep Bigelow and Tatanka guys out there. They can jump on him and start beating him. And then it makes sense why Luger's team comes out, and then they beat him back out. And then now they're like, yeah, we won. And now you're kind of on the outs.
Right.
Then that moment makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
Also, Adam Bomb was in the match for like 5 minutes, and then he gets like eliminated, and then I'm like, well, that was a waste. Like,
yeah.
That right there sums up the whole thing. It was a waste. Everybody in this match, and you even think about what happens to everybody in this match after this match. Bundy, I think he retires because he was already like, what was the main event in like WrestleMania 2?
They're building Bundy up at this point to feud with Undertaker at WrestleMania 11. So he goes and feuds with the Undertaker at WrestleMania 11, and
good Lord, he should have retired already.
He's shortly gone from the company right after. But that's the whole reason why they brought Bundy in, because they want Bundy versus Taker as one of the marquee matches at 11.
Yeah, that's like 10 years too late. Bundy's should have been retired already.
Yeah, okay.
Bam Bam ends up in like ECW. The Guns split apart. One becomes part of the New Age Outlaws. The other one gets beat up in the Brawl for All.
Right.
By Butterbean.
Yeah.
Shit. Who else? Adam Bomb. What the hell happens to Adam Bomb again?
Goes to WCW and becomes one half of Chronic.
What was his name in WCW?
Brian Clark.
What the hell?
Which is his real name.
Mabel goes on and off to be Viscera, to be Big Daddy V, whatever.
Big Daddy V, yep.
Who else is this? $1 Million Man doesn't even wrestle anymore.
No, he's a manager at this point, and then he goes over to WCW to become kind of the one of the two managers of the NWO, if you can put it that way. If you count,
Tatanka
Bischoff
goes on a
as
Vision
manager,
quest and never comes back until like 2002.
Well, 2005, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very briefly on SmackDown.
On SmackDown, yeah.
Lex Luger ends up on Nitro. Like, this is a match of like nobody's going nowhere.
Yeah,
by the end of it.
It's the second last match on the card, and it's the B show main event scene if you're on a B show house show loop. Because on the A show, you're getting matches with Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels or something like that. On the B show loops, you're getting faces versus the $1 Million Corporation.
Yeah.
Yeah. In that case, there shouldn't even be a B show. You should not have two different loops running at this time if that's your quality of talent.
They're trying to make money and the only way they know how. The problem is the money ain't coming in. So
yeah, because the product sucks.
Yeah, that's right. But you look at the other guys, their product sucks too. So all of the products suck right now.
Shitty product thin.
Yeah.
I also, I mean, because there was a moment of squash in this match as well, but I forgot to mention it from the first match. I don't want to hear Kevin Nash ever bitch about Bill Goldberg squashing everybody again, because he was basically Bill Goldberg in that Elimination Chamber in 2003 versus in that first match where Goldberg comes in and spears everybody and then gets hit with a sledgehammer. I was like, that's basically what happened.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention. Friggin' Diesel comes in and just jackknifes everybody out of existence.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the only reason he didn't get the win on Ramon after jackknifing him twice was because Shawn needed the pin.
Yep.
There you go.
Yep. So
ready to go to main events, or is there something else?
No. There's just one more quick thing here. We finally get our interview in the back. Todd Pettengill finally catches up with Bob Backlund as he's getting belts or getting pictures with the belts, I should say. And there's a couple of funny freeze frames here. Of course, this one here is just the extreme close up as he's talking and that stuff. And then this is the classic "I feel like God" comment. He legit says, "I feel like God." So
I made a note that says that Tom Pettengill is interviewing a modern Republican congressman from Florida.
Basically, yeah. No lie.
Well done.
That's basically
a great note.
Yeah. Yeah, you could take the Mr. Backlund character right now and probably win the vice presidency. He could be, Trump's running mate. Sadly, but there we go. Just unreal.
Now, I know as Canadians, we're not legally allowed to influence an American election, but Bob Backlund,
yeah.
Still
Backlund for president, potentially?
Remember that actually was a storyline where he's trying to run for president?
Yeah, that was 1995. Yeah. So it's just 1 year later, he tries to run for president. Yes.
If Bob Backlund became the president, he would just go on the front lawn in kayfabe and just be like, "I'm going to put Vladimir Putin in the crossface chicken wing and it'll be all over because I'm God." And then everybody's like, "He's going to do it."
I just imagine him at the front gates, like pretending it's the steel cage.
If you meet and you talk to the dude at like a wrestling convention or something like that, the stories are abound that, like how certain wrestlers will, okay, $20 you get an autograph 8x10 from them or something like that. This dude Backlund will make you recite verbatim the Pledge of Allegiance. He'll ask you to name every single U.S. president from memory. He'll ask you to name every capital city in every state
I could do that.
Memory.
I could do that.
I was thinking, I could probably do the third one, but the first two is like, as a Canadian, forget it.
Hit me with any state. I bet I know the capital.
Okay. Here's a quiz for Fraser quickly before we go into the main event. Virginia.
Fuck. No. It's Richmond.
There we go. That's
Louisiana.
Baton Rouge.
Ooh, there we go. Montana.
That would be Helena.
Yes, it's Helena, not Helena. It's
Nope.
Helena.
There
we go. Yes.
Arkansas.
Little Rock.
Fuck.
California.
Sacramento, not Los
Ah,
Angeles or San Francisco.
Nevada.
Nevada is it's actually Carson City, Nevada.
Yes, it is. God
I
damn,
know,
you
bro.
knew that.
Got it. Hawaii.
Hawaii's Honolulu.
Ooh, there we
New
go.
Hampshire.
New Hampshire is actually a place called Concord.
Fuck.
Look at him go. Just want to beat
Connecticut.
him.
What?
Connecticut.
Hartford. No. Yeah, it is Hartford.
Hang on. Do it a Google.
Oh, God.
Connecticut. It's not.
Capital.
Yeah, I think it is.
Rhode Island.
Rhode Island's Providence.
Hartford.
Yeah.
He's right. He's right. No, he got it.
Hartford.
He is correct. It
This
is
some
Hartford. Yeah.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
I did
he's
learn.
good.
I learned all the states and their capitals in case an American I came across was. I'm like, can you name all the provinces? And they're like, I bet you could name the states and the capitals. I'll be like, I got you, motherfucker.
Yeah, but that just proves that their
Just
country's
Endgame.
more important, that you had to learn all of them and you got them all.
I also learned all 197 sovereign nations in the world. Even in, I know all the countries in Africa.
Yeah,
Well,
we got time for that. Let's
I was going to say, we'll wait until next month for that one.
that's a different podcast.
For sure.
Jesse Ventura teaches us social studies.
I
Yes.
was doing a mission in Burkina Faso, which is in West Africa, next to Niger, which is north of Nigeria.
Oh, for God's sakes.
I was in the jungles of Cameroon.
All right. Well,
I didn't say that.
Why didn't you tell me why? Where I was.
what did I say?
I was on the islands of Sao Tome and Principe.
Oh man. All right. Well, we'll get into the main event here, and it is the aforementioned casket match, the second casket match of the year between these two individuals. We have The Undertaker taking on Yokozuna, and special enforcer in the casket match is, well, the special troubleshooting referee, Chuck frickin' Norris.
Can you put up that first graphic with the wrestlers?
Oh, right there.
I just like how like I can make sounds for every single one of them starting on the left.
Do it.
Paul Bearer is just like woo,
Yeah.
and then Undertaker is just kind of like I'm a lead singer in a punk band. And then Yokozuna is just like, hi guys. And then Jim Cornette is just kind of like,
But yes, Chuck Norris, guys, as the special troubleshooting referee in this. Everybody wondering, okay, how did the WWE get Chuck Norris? Well, because WWE was on USA and Walker Texas Ranger was on USA at the same time, and Walker Texas Ranger had just debuted. So there we go, cross promotion.
I also when I saw this as a kid, so I had that DVD like I mentioned earlier.
Right.
This is I'm watching this in like 2003, 2004.
Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, at the time, the Chuck Norris jokes were just getting big, just getting hot.
Yes.
Like at least in my school, it was like, like Chuck Norris, got bit by a snake, and after 5 excruciating hours, the snake died.
Yeah.
Like that kind of that stuff was going around. And so when I started watching the DVD, I'm going through all these different matches, and then obviously in this video we see the entrances, but the DVD doesn't include the entrances. So I had no idea Chuck Norris was a part of this match for the first time. I'm watching this, I was like, okay, Undertaker, Yokozuna is a casket match, and then all of a sudden at one point I think Yokozuna gets knocked out the casket for a bit, and all of there's just a guy in a cowboy hat standing there, and you hear Vince McMahon like, oh, there's Chuck Norris. And I was like, what the fuck? What is going on? And like, I showed this to my friends at school, and we were crying about this because I had all my friends one at a time. I would anytime they could come over to my house. I lived right behind my late elementary, junior high school. I had my friends come over on a lunch break. Nobody was home. I didn't tell my parents. I had like 10 kids in the basement. I put this on. I said, what's this shit? And they were watching it, and they were like, this is fucking Chuck Norris. Why is he here?
What's going on? Yeah.
Terrific.
Oh man.
I'd be, I got to mention this is right before those Chuck Norris little memes came out.
Yeah.
Was when Conan O'Brien had the Walker Texas Ranger lever on his show. And at any point, if he pulled it, it played a random clip of the show.
Conan, and honestly, in my mind, Conan had some of the best bits.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like the masturbating bear was just. Anytime it happened, it was just like he's in the middle of a segment. All of a sudden, it just shows the cuts to the bear, and he's like, "Oh no!"
But that's cool. Yep.
That being said, I have seen this match before.
Yes.
I really do like this match. I really do like this match. It's a sentimental match for me because Undertaker is my favorite wrestler, and like I remember watching this for the first time, and my dad watched the DVD with me, and he was like, "Yokozuna, I remember Yokozuna," and he like told me like how he was like 500 pounds, and it was like, he was huge, and like the Undertaker does the mind game thing, and Yokozuna's falling down, and like it was just, I don't know. And to me, this is textbook. Saturday morning wrestling of that era. In many ways, it was almost like if you were going to talk about the transition from the old school Hogan and all those guys to the newer generation, this is the torch match, or arguably a torch passing match. I mean, is it the greatest match? No. I mean, Yokozuna, like obviously great power, but like even he had some great spots in this match with Taker.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like he was kind of limited in the ring, and it's just, I just think in terms of story, and this was also after the Undertaker had come back and beat the Imposter. This is where Undertaker stopped just being a guy that made coffins and showed up and looked like Now this is like the Undertaker's actually a supernatural being. He's actually can control lightning and
supernatural badass now at this point.
Yo, that entrance was dope.
So good.
Yep. Yeah,
where
lights go out,
parted in the middle, and we didn't even know the screen could do that. And the Undertaker walks through the smog.
Just walks right through the middle of it. Yeah.
Just and of course, Undertaker gets the win, and then you also have one of the most kind of played clips of him is with the flipping the hair and the eyes are rolled back at the end. Like it's just, and that's how it goes out.
Just before it, but
that's
right. I don't know why. I never did like that he wore purple in this iteration of the Undertaker.
Well, it was initially it was to differentiate Paul Bearer's Undertaker from Ted DiBiase's Undertaker, right?
But the original Undertaker is, it's the gray gloves and the hat with the gray band.
Yeah, now
it all turns like all his accents turn purple with the rest of it black. I was like, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
I never liked it.
I like it. I mean,
I never liked that as a kid. I was like, nah, go back to the gray.
See, the thing is that I wasn't aware of Gray Undertaker until probably 97, 98 when I started really digging into like the back history of WWF and watching like his debut at 90 and that stuff and everything.
See, y'all a bunch of youngins. I grew up with all this shit.
I
making me relive all this.
The first time I saw Undertaker was probably maybe in the lead up to Undertaker versus Undertaker. So it was, I was watching the false Undertaker win matches on TV, and I was like, well, that Ted DiBiase guy's got this Undertaker dude. What's going on, right? So
I'm actually very ashamed of looking back at it now. The fact that as a kid I believe Yokozuna was Japanese. This man is Samoan as fuck.
He's in the Inouye family, if I'm not mistaken.
You can see the Roman Reigns in him. Yes.
Yeah. Like now, look at him. Like, how the hell did I believe this man was a Japanese sumo wrestler? This dude looks Samoan as hell.
Yeah.
He's tan. He's got all the features and everything. And as a kid, I just accepted it. Like, yeah, that's what a sumo wrestler from Japan looks like. Sure.
And by the way, we
Why so many managers?
What's that?
Why did he have so many managers? He's got Jim Cornette, Mr. Fuji. I swear the old what's his face, $1 Million Man.
Well, so Fuji was his initial manager. Jim Cornette wasn't a manager per se, but an American spokesperson because obviously Yoko couldn't cut a promo, because that would expose him as not being Japanese.
But, saying things like "brother."
Yeah, exactly. You know, Oosie.
Yeah, Oos.
What's up, Oos?
My
Just like
title,
that.
Oos. I mean, Cornette, say something.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, brother.
Come on, brother, say
Yeah.
something.
So Fuji was his manager. Cornette was his American spokesperson, and by association, Yoko Dim would become part of Camp Cornette, which would be Cornette's all his heel faction of baddies, I guess, you know, going forward. So like guys like Crush, the Heavenly Bodies, you know, stuff like that, right? So
One thing I wanted to say quickly about The Undertaker is like when I started watching wrestling, actually for the first time, he was already the American Badass.
okay, yeah.
And yeah, so like that was my first iteration of The Undertaker. And I remember my dad telling me, he's like, wow, The Undertaker used to be like this guy. He'd like look, because my uncle really liked wrestling, and he'd watched it with my dad sometimes when they were younger. And it's, you know, he said, you know, The Undertaker used to be this kind of like grim reaper kind of type character. And I was like,
Yes.
oh, really? And he got me that DVD, which introduced me to that. I was like, oh, that is so much, this is such a better gimmick than the motorcycle. You know,
Yeah.
and but I mean, I guess why he wanted to change it. But so that's why when he did get buried alive, I remember I was thinking that was one of the first, it was the second year I was watching wrestling, was the buried alive match with Mr. McMahon when Kane came out. Because when I started watching wrestling, Kane still had the mask. He was still doing like I just watched when he came back to be Test in the Un-Americans, when he did when Jim Ross was like, send him to hell, send him to hell, you know, like American choke slam.
yeah, that's right.
And so when he did come back at WrestleMania 20 as the Dead Man, that was like a Goose Pimples moment.
Yes.
So I when the purple, the gray, to me, I'm like, I guess it's because I didn't have that previous opinion. I was always just like, this is just good. Like either way, it's good. And I think one of the reasons he did the purple too was if I'm not, it was to differentiate between the phony Undertaker, but because he also started doing the blue light. At that time.
Yeah.
That
yes,
was
yes.
I remember reading about that.
Right.
So
yes.
It was to match the colors of his entrance and everything.
Yeah. So yeah, that's different iterations of it and that stuff. I mean, like you pop in a copy of the 2K22 or 2K23 games and that stuff, and you can pick attires for wrestlers. Undertaker leads the way with like 20. You can go through 20 different attires of the Undertaker in these games. You can have any era of Undertaker you want, which is insane, right? So it's just, the dude is a master of you know, I guess reinventing himself and kind of just forever evolving and that stuff and whatever. And I mean, like just prior to the American Badass run, you had him as the devil. I mean, like legit, like he was Lucifer. So
I truly think, and I mean, I'm not saying as like a talent or a wrestler, but he's the best character of all time.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Bar none.
Easily the best character of all time.
Bar none. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And if you're doing a all-time WWF/WWE card, if you're going to do like a 7-match spectacular card involving all the all-time people.
Is that a challenge?
Perhaps, maybe. For next month, if we want to do that, sure.
Interesting. So 7 matches, you say?
I mean, I had a show ready to go for next month, but if we want to do that instead, that could be fun.
Well, if it's a piece of shit pay-per-view like this one, then yeah, let's tack it on.
You can do it. I like a 7-match card for what you have to set what years though, and then you have to.
No, I mean like it's the entirety of WWF history. So like from we'll say from 84 on, like right from you know time of the first WrestleMania on to today. So
wow, okay, I'm in.
All right, I'm in. Let's do it.
Deal. You've heard it here first, folks. That's what we're doing next month. So there we go.
Setting it up.
There we go. Nice.
Can we talk about how big the goddamn urn was this time around by Paul Bearer?
They have been getting more and more comically big for 1994. It started as a
one-cup urn.
Yes.
This one is like a full-ass coffee pot. Like a tin of Folgers. He's just
eventually it was just going to be like Paul Bearer's riding a giant urn on wheels. was like, oh, the Undertaker is the
Well, see the
I just envisioned it, and the light is shooting out through his leg.
Paul found out that Paul found out that there's a fixed rate at 7-Eleven at the Big Gulp fountain, which means that you can bring in any container you want for $2.99 and get that filled. So he's just like, oh.
I'm sorry, the light is shooting out as he's riding the urn, and it's coming through his legs, and him going, "Oh yeah,
oh, the Dr. Pepper."
the Undertaker has blinded me.
Yeah, no, they've been getting, especially through 94. If you watch the pay-per-views that Taker is on in 1994, so it starts at the Rumble, and then he takes Mania and King of the Ring off, but it comes back at SummerSlam, and then it's a big urn, and then the weeks leading up to Survivor Series, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
I have a question for Craig, because you
Yes.
grew up with initially the American Badass Undertaker, who fights almost like a UFC fighter. He's kind of clawy.
Yeah.
How do you like the style?
The last ride was a dope move, though, of that era.
It's a big power bomb, but still.
Yeah.
How did you like this style of the Undertaker, where he's not cagey and he's not a mixed martial artist? He's very standstill and he's very stoic, and he's almost like a wrestling zombie in a way.
I think,
And he gets up like Michael Myers every time.
Yeah.
I think, and Mark Calloway might even agree with me on this. I don't know. I feel that like he might say like it was good for the time. I think I maybe for the character and how it is at the time, I think it's better than the cagey kind of like weird, like I'm a boxer biker. Yeah. I'm just some angry divorced dad coming to the ring on my Harley. Nice bikes all the time. I was like, I gotta get one of those bikes.
Those custom Titan bikes.
But
Yes.
I honestly think that the best style of Undertaker is honestly after like I'm gonna like post 2010, like 2008 to 2014 Undertaker. I think
really.
I think that he was, in terms of his fighting style, had a good blend of both. Because he would have those moments where he could go like when he first comes back against Kane and he opens up that match with like, American Badass, body shots, and he's like boom, 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 and he's a lot more fluid. It isn't like the one thing I will draw against this iteration of the Undertaker style. It's just throat chop, throat chop, throat chop, throat chop, and I'm like, how many more throat chops are you gonna hit there, buddy?
Oh.
That was
all of the chops. Yes,
that was the style.
it does evolve. Yes,
But he does a flying throat chop. He does an off the top rope throat chop.
He does an old school, like
He
those
does
are
an old school throat chop.
yes.
those are great moves. The flying Undertaker clothesline, great move. Like that.
Yeah.
That was this era, absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you add in a little bit more rhythm, a little bit more fluid, and he was in still pretty good shape in his 40s when he came back and did the Dead Man run again. When he I'm thinking like when he fought Batista and Edge.
Yeah. So late 2000s. Yes.
Yeah, and it's
Until
like
late 2000s. Yeah.
that era of Undertaker, it's like he has it ball because he's still doing the old school. He's still doing the flying clothesline, right? And he can be the more cagey biker dead man, but he can also get knocked down. And there's still that moment where he goes, yeah, and like sits up, and you're just like, oh, he's still the fucking dead man. I just like
weird.
I like the blend. I like the
I
blend.
never thought of this, but Kane is doing the Undertaker's act in the ring.
He took all his moves.
Oh yeah.
So
Of
the
course.
Undertaker became this like Hell's Angel biker,
Yes.
and Kane took all of Undertaker's moves,
Mm-hmm.
including the throat chop after throat chop,
Yep.
Well,
And-
I mean,
choking people right from the neck going forward.
but it works because he's his brother. I mean,
But for you to say
Of course, the younger brother's going to take what
but
the
for you
older
to say
brother
the
does.
Undertaker style was of the time in the mid 90s, and it wouldn't have worked in the 2000s. Yet Kane was doing it through the 2000s.
but Kane, I think Kane had a different path with it, and I think that it worked. I think Kane is honestly, I mean, I think maybe next to the return of the Dead Man eventually, I think Kane was one of the best things that ever happened to the Undertaker's character. Like it's one of the greatest storylines. I mean, I would love to do a 97 Bad Blood edition eventually, just to watch, to talk about that match.
I have covered that event on this channel before, but I definitely will bring it back.
Yeah,
to talk to you guys about it. Sure.
I feel that Kane helped evolve the Undertaker, and Kane also could come in and basically be an Undertaker ripoff, but not be a ripoff.
Yeah.
Like basically be like, wow, this is just like, how often can you say like, oh, this is just like that, but it's still fucking good.
Yeah.
I know. It's called Sting in WCW when he put on the crow face paint and ripped off the Undertaker.
Well, that was also a huge ripoff of the Crow.
Yes.
Like he was basically ripping off Brandon Lee. But I mean, again though, but like, how boss was it? And yes, I just said boss. How boss was it when Sting dropped from those rafters?
Yes.
And he's got the bat, and he's going after Hogan. He's going after NWO. Right? That honestly, the drama building, and when you have you have the right guy playing the right character, you get magic. Like that's what makes wrestling good box office, is when you can say like, I know this is silly. That's a guy dressed up like the Crow, standing and looking down in the rafters, and like it. I know what that is, but like when it happens, you can actually go, oh, and like you actually like sit up and you actually stand up. Like when I was watching WrestleMania 20 because it was March, it was like my 13th birthday party. Yeah, it was 2004. It was my 13th birthday party, and I'm sitting there when the Undertaker showed up. I was standing up off my couch when the guys came out, the Druids came out, and they had the torches, and then when that lights go out and the gong hits again, and I was standing on my couch. I know that's just a guy pretending to be a Grim Reaper coffin dude, but I was like, it's the story of it.
Man, I don't blame you. I was in my 20s doing that when The Rock came back to host WrestleMania.
Oh yeah, that would have been like just like that moment. Like, I mean, but even now, Ty, you're in your 30s, and like if you were,
how dare you?
I am too. But if you were at an event here in Edmonton, like a WWE event, and like some whatever, let's say,
Edge came out and I lost it.
Yeah. We have video on the channel of when Edge came out. That stuff. You just hear this roar like that. There's a roar of the crowd, but then there's 3/4 of the roar is him losing it, because Edge came out, right? So
what if you were at a Raw, and I mean, I don't know that this is probably not going to happen, but if you're at a Raw and Roman Reigns is in the ring, and you're like, what are they? Who is possibly going to, who is going, if he was at an event and people are thinking, oh, Cody's going to get another shot. Cody's going to get another shot. And then all of a sudden that music hits Ty, and it's just, you look in my eyes, and he fucking Punk comes, you would be screaming.
Motherfucking
but it's because the character and the story resonate, and it's like it's a good movie. It's when Aragorn charges in and says for Frodo, it's like, oh yes, just fucking do it. Like it's that
How
moment.
Did you know the CM Punk was going to pop me like that?
Because I know how, like, you wore a CM Punk shirt almost every other day at school. Or once a week, you wore your CM Punk shirt.
I did.
That's the thing. Like honestly, because like they're like, is he gonna go back to AEW? If he fucking showed up and just looked at Rome, like I don't know if Vince would want it, but that's box office. You know how many people are gonna buy the next pay-per-view? I mean, that would work. That would work.
By the way, folks, we're all going to the AEW show on July 5th here in Edmonton, so we will be there. So that'll be good.
Is that on the lead up to their Wembley show, or is this after?
It will be on a lead up to whatever Calgary is, which might be a pay-per-view. So we'll see.
No. When is the Wembley show?
That's Labor Day. So yeah, it'll be in a lead up of All In. We're just trying to we're just trying to figure out, and there's rumor that the Calgary house show might be a one night pay-per-view for the Owen Hart Cup. So we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah. So we're definitely on a lead up to Calgary, but we'll be in between Double or Nothing and All In. So yeah, it'll be in the eventual lead into All In. So there we go. So,
cool.
So yeah, so that's that. A couple of quick things before we get into our ratings and that stuff and whatever, just because I think this would be just quick ways to pop the guys and that stuff. Obviously, The finish of this thing is the big boot, and Taker smashes the Japanese flag, which I laughed at, and closes the lid.
That's for WW2.
Exactly. Like, what the hell is that? So
Remember the Alamo.
and
It was the Mexicans, not the Japanese.
we have to talk about the bump that Double J Jeff Jarrett takes after Chuck Norris super kicks Double J outside of the ring when they're all trying to interfere.
It was like a handstand.
Just like a handstand and just oversells the hell out of this.
It was ridiculous.
So hey, I guess the Chuck Norris thing paid off. I don't know.
It did for me when I saw that DVD as a kid.
I bet.
I don't know if it did anything at the time, but like I was like throwing Chuck Norris.
He did kick the soul right out of Double J.
Yes, he did. Yeah, definitely, for sure. So there it is. That is the 1994 Survivor Series card. Now we get to do the fun part and rank this thing out of 10. So TL, I'll start with you first because you've probably got the longest laundry list of grievances with this thing. So what will you give the card out of 10?
Oh, I just added one more grievance to it that I just remembered.
Go for it.
The Teamsters come out. Diesel. Okay, hold on. Shawn Michaels,
yes.
Most classic, one of the most classic theme songs of all time.
Yes.
Double J Jeff Jarrett, a legit country hit as a theme song sung by the Road Dogg, was supposed to be Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
Owen Hart with his poppy little 80s song.
Yeah.
Neidhart, part of the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, the Hart Foundation theme, probably. Yeah.
And they come to the ring with Diesel's song, which was just a horn. Come to the ring with that. There's no music. It doesn't have like the harmonica and the badass like blues thing yet.
Yeah,
it's
not yet. He gets the blues treatment after he gets the belt. Yes, the better music is to come.
I'm like, you could have had the. Why did they come out to Diesel's not theme song?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Could have been Sexy Boy.
Yeah,
it could have been Sexy Boy. It could have been the Jeff Jarrett song. The country song. They were in San Antonio. They would have loved it. Yeah, this gets a 1.0 out of 10.
So just a 1? Okay.
Yeah. There's a piece of a match that's good, and the rest of it is junk. This is a throw it out in the garbage can. I never want to see it again. I don't want people to know this exists other than to know how bad it is.
Okay.
Please, if you are listening or watching this podcast and think, isn't that bad? Should I go and what? No, you should not go and watch this.
Okay.
Do yourself a favor. Don't watch this. This is like that Bond movie in between Roger Moore and Sean Connery with what's his name on Her Majesty's Secret Service, the worst Bond ever. It's like that one. Stay the hell away from it.
Who is that dude?
George Lazenby.
Oh.
The Australian that they cast as Bond one time in the transition between Sean Connery and Roger Moore.
Yep.
Have you ever heard the story of Jim Jeffries talking about George Lazenby?
No, let's hear it. What? Go ahead.
Jim Jeffries talked about how, because he's an Australian comedian and everybody knows Jim Jeffries. He was talking about how he was on a podcast and he was saying how for one of the shows he was doing, I think one of his sitcoms or whatever back in Australia, they said, his producers came up to him and they said, hey, would you want George Lazenby to be your father in the show? And he's like, fuck yeah, I want James Bond to be my father in the show, but they're like, the thing about George Lazenby is like, he barely has worked since James Bond because he was just kind of riding that celebrity and the fact that he was a very successful male model. And they're like, he's like, we're doing this. Of course, we're using digital cameras, but there's George on set, just like, how many more takes are we going to do? Surely we're running out of film. just like, but then they're like, because he was such a dog, like the guy was like, he was a drinker and he was like just a womanizer. And they said like they were doing this thing in Australia where they were going around to all these different orchestras. Of course, they would go to the Opera House, and they were playing the soundtrack on orchestra of all the James Bond films, right? And I thought that'd be pretty cool. And what they thought they were going to do in Sydney is like, well, let's bring out George Lazenby on stage. And this was like a family event. Like people were bringing their kids to this event, and they bring out George Lazenby, and they have done no prep, but they're just like, like he's just like, but he'd just be on the stage. He's just like, Eartha Kitt, Factor. Like, and he's just telling all these people and all their kids. He's just going through all these and they're just like he's just talking about his escapades. And Jeffries, he's like, I talked to George Lazenby, and I was just like, well, how many Bond girls did you sleep with? He's like, it'd be easier to tell you the ones I haven't fucked. Just like the guy's a fucking hound dog. Wow. I mean, he's still just a hound dog.
That's unreal.
It's like, okay, George Lazenby.
Yeah, and that's why you should stay away from him and Survivor Series 94.
Stay away from Survivor Series 1994 and George Lazenby.
That's my quote. Put that right here. That's
there we go.
It is.
Stay away from Craig, what you giving this show out of 10?
Ty, don't kill me, but this had moments and potential to be a 7. It's not.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because of all the screw ups, the bad takes, the elimination, the bad, they made so many mistakes. I would agree with the base rating I would honestly give it a 2 out of 10, but I give it a 4.
Okay.
Because of the Undertaker match and the storyline and the sentimental value. I give it a 4 out of 10.
Fair enough. Yes, exactly.
I won't kill you for that because that's still not a pass.
No.
And I agree that this shouldn't get a passing grade whatsoever.
No. Well, Craig, you and I are thinking alike because I will give it a 4 out of 10 as well. The reason being is I still feel that you can take that casket match and you can take the WWF Championship match off of this pay-per-view and show it to people, and they are prime examples of what the New Generation era was. These are the people they were pushing. These are the people that was the hot feuds at the time and that stuff. Because I mean, Backlund and Hart go right into WrestleMania of the next year and that stuff, and they have a I Quit match, which is the classic I Quit rules with the microphone and that stuff and whatever. And then Backlund's character starts morphing into the presidential Mr. Backlund right after. But
Hold
okay.
up.
Okay.
Did you just say if you take away the Hitman match and the Undertaker match?
If you looked at this entire pay-per-view and just took those 2 matches to present to somebody, say, hey, and you're building a compilation of what the New Generation was, basically, what that entire thing was. I think that the casket match from this pay-per-view and the I Quit match are 2 examples that I would take away out of these pay-per-views out of this pay-per-view, I should say, to present to that. I would definitely pitch those in a meeting. Everything else is garbage. There's no doubt about it. Everything else is just whatever. But yeah, I think that if you're building like a DVD compilation or a DVD set of, okay, what are the best matches from the New Generation era? Well, I would definitely put these 2 up for consideration. For sure.
No. Nothing from this pay-per-view goes into the new era DVD best of.
No,
nothing. No, I'm sorry, but this. Okay, the casket match between Yokozuna and Undertaker, when Undertaker gets put in with the help of 15 other jobbers, that was way more entertaining than this one.
But see, I feel this one was the better of the 2 matches, though.
Was it though?
I think so. Because the one at Rumble 94, it has that ending where everybody just mobs up on Undertaker and throws him in the box, and then all the theatricy whoop-de-doo at the end of that stuff and everything. To me, kind of takes away from that match.
Well, that's the point, because that match was never supposed to be a match. It's just supposed to be a spectacle, because Yokozuna can't, he can do a few things, but he can't work really, really well.
Right. But to me, this is this one that we just watched. The Survivor Series one is the definitive Yokozuna Taker casket match.
Yeah.
because it's the absolute. It's the end of the line. That's it. I mean, Yokozuna doesn't main event a pay-per-view ever after this. Again, this is his last main event spot.
Yeah, there's a reason for that because he's nothing that great.
No, because The Undertaker made him rest in peace.
And that
Nitro,
there
what
we
was
go.
your fucking score again?
4 out of 10.
Okay, thank you.
I'll pop it up again. There we go. 4 out of 10. So,
All right.
and with that, yeah, I don't have to do the whole rest in peace thing with the Undertaker.
What do you think, Jesse Ventura?
Well, I was not asked to be on commentary in this pay-per-view, and I think that was an abomination.
He was a mayor at that point. He was running.
I
a
was
city.
not. No, I wasn't. You said that. I wasn't a mayor. Why
were a
did
mayor.
the mayor supersede his duties on a weekend to go to the River Series in San Antonio, Texas? You tell me why.
And what do you say to that, Alex Jones?
Vince McMahon is making the Fox gay.
He's going to go into a rant about Bud Light. I was just like,
Now I'm getting pissed. Because Barack Obama and the other Democrats want Bud Light to contain actual irradiated reptile piss that your kids are going to drink and commit school shootings. That's what's happening.
So a couple of quick hitters I'll show you guys here off of this that are kind of in the aftermath of this and that stuff is that we talked about the crossface chicken wing. Did you guys see a few weeks ago on Wheel of Fortune when Pat Sajak was trying to put a dude in the crossface chicken wing? This is crazy.
What?
Yeah. So
That's Sajak?
Pat Sajak a couple of weeks ago on the Wheel of Fortune. So the dude in the Hawaiian shirt said, they asked all the things. This is like right before the final wheel gimmick, right? So they're making small talk, and so Pat asks this guy, he's like, "Oh, so what do you do?" He's like, "Well, I'm a mechanic or something or whatever like that." He's like, "Oh yeah, you got any hobbies?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm actually a independent wrestler on the weekends. I don't do it for big money and that stuff. I just do it because I like it and so on and so forth." Right? He's like, "Oh yeah, that's great." So he won the big wheel. So he won a prize or something on the final RSTLNE type puzzle. I forget the name of it or whatever. And then, so what happened was he started like fist pumping and yeah, like that, whatever. And then out of nowhere, Sajak just throws this guy into the crossface chicken wing. I don't understand why. Like, he didn't hurt the guy, obviously, but he's just the look on these frames.
That would,
just
that, would,
unreal.
that would be like being a guest on Mr. Dress Up and him putting you in the sharpshooter. or like Mr. Rogers locks you in the figure 4 and he's just like, "Whoa, neighbor."
Whoa.
Whoa. Whoa.
That thing.
Ties his shoes as he's crushing your legs.
Yeah. And of course, I would be remiss if we did a show and I didn't show this. So there we go.
Oh, for God's sake.
That will forever be on the server. So there we
This is
go. In a day.
one of the greatest faces ever made by anybody in history. Just like completely chest exposed, and like warriors. This is how he's like, "Look at my nipples."
My
And
head
Gene's
hurts.
like, "Well, thank you very much."
Well, Ultimate Warrior, he's quite spunky tonight, and he's got a plan for Macho Man Randy Savage.
All right. And with that, we'll get our socials and get out of here. So TL, okay, and we go. Yep.
Do you have, because it's your pick, do you
Yes.
have a pick ready for the next one?
I do have a pick ready for the next one, but if we want to meet and do our 7-match super card, we can do that, and then we'll do what I have picked like later in the month. That's fine.
Okay, either way.
There's nothing saying that we can only meet once a month. I mean, like we could do the super card early next month, and then we'll do my pick like late next month. It's fine.
Which is fine, but I'm saying, what's your pick?
Oh, okay. So my pick because it was my turn in the rotation, is
Yes.
we were going to go back to 1998. We were going to take our first steps into the Attitude Era. And we were going to do WWF Unforgiven in Your House from the Greensboro Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Interesting.
It has the very first Inferno match.
Oh,
it has the very first bra and panties match.
Ah, shit.
And it also has Stone Cold Steve Austin as champion versus Dude Love, the whole corporation thing, the whole deal.
Oh, this is prime Vince Russo, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lord.
Craig's Googling it right now and he's just cringing. It's like...
Oh, my goodness.
So we can put that one though on the back burner because I am very curious to see what everybody's 7-match, all-time WWE supercard would be.
Little man, I've been working. I can't do the Ric Flair. I want to. I really do want to.
We're gonna have a great WWF supercard without me, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. It's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen.
All right.
That's enough.
Yeah, we're.
And don't forget Sean looking for Brett in the background too.
Hitman, I will find you and I'll screw you again. That was more Vince McMahon, but
Yeah, exactly. So,
which, by the way, I forgot to say, horrible commentary throughout Survivor Series.
Oh yeah, no,
Horrible.
this was a bad team. This was a terrible team throughout this show. So.
And he's got him up.
Yeah.
Right in the kisser. Oh fuck.
Gorilla and Vince didn't really work, and we would see
Vince
Gorilla
doesn't
face
work.
Up, so. Yeah, no, he doesn't. But she's around during the mid-90s. That's what it is.
He's the worst commentator out there next to Eric Bischoff.
I was on a phone call with Vince McMahon before this match. I was in Bogota, Colombia, and I said, I will come to San Antonio, Texas, and I will be the commentator with Gorilla Monsoon. And he said, Jesse, you don't work for this company anymore. And I said,
there's no need.
Yes, I do. I was still there. He said, you're not on payroll. And I said, well, that's exactly what the United States government wants you to think, doesn't it? That's exactly what it wants you to think. You just think I'm Hulk Hogan, but I'm not.
There we go. Right. All right.
Oh Lord.
Cool.
We're done.
Mr. TL, what's your socials? Where can they find you on
TMLOUTAN? Twitter exclusive, damn it. Twitter exclusive and nowhere else.
Boom. Craig, yours.
At Craig, capital P, as in Patrick Fraser.
Boom. There we go.
That is my Twitter handle.
And you can follow me everywhere at Kellen Nitro. Basically, if there's a social media, it is what it is. So I'm across the board like that. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope everybody enjoyed this more than Raw on a Monday night. So I think we had that in common. At least this was more enjoyable than Monday Night Raw was. So I think like the biggest thing that happened on Raw tonight was Trish turned. That's it. So
interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys next time here on Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. Do take care. Have a great night. And we'll see you guys next time.